In this video, we will take a closer look at how the California wildfires started, beginning from the Palisades region, extending through the Hollywood Hills, including the Sunset area, and progressing to the Eaton, Hearst, and Lydia fires. More than 7,500 dedicated personnel are actively involved in fighting the flames. The operation has deployed 1,162 fire engines, offering ground support to suppress and control the spread of the fire. Additionally, 31 helicopters are conducting aerial water drops, supported by 6 large water tanker aircraft, to tackle the more inaccessible and high-intensity hotspots. But most importantly, we'll look at how this all started all in the videos ahead. Let's take a closer look at the factors contributing to the fires. To be honest, even experts have been taken aback by how rapidly these extremely dangerous fires have spread. By Tuesday night, the 7th of January, massive blazes had already erupted in northern Los Angeles, with more following on Wednesday. Let's examine the largest of these fires. The Palisades fire, as mentioned, began at 10:30 a.m. local time on Tuesday. This image, captured just 15 minutes after the fire was first reported, already shows its intensity from the sky. The fire quickly ballooned throughout the afternoon, raging between the beach towns of Santa Monica and Malibu. By midnight, it had consumed nearly 3,000 acres, destroying numerous buildings and homes, so many, in fact, that officials are still struggling to determine the full extent of the damage. The cause of the fires has not yet been identified. However, what we do know is that they have been supercharged by fierce, dry winds blowing in from the northeast. These winds, known as the Santa Ana winds, accelerate as they hit the mountainous terrain around Los Angeles. This can be seen in the striking bands of pink and purple on weather maps, indicating the areas affected by these devil winds. The Santa Ana winds also drastically reduce humidity levels, drying out the land and making it more flammable. With wind speeds reaching up to 60 miles per hour, these conditions are so extreme that firefighting planes have been unable to take off. Fire chiefs describe the combination of low humidity, dry soil, and strong winds as creating some of the worst fire conditions imaginable. Southern California recently experienced an exceptionally hot summer, with almost no rainfall during what should now be the wet season. This map illustrates the rainfall of the past 60 days compared to the average for this period. The brown areas around Los Angeles highlight regions that have received virtually no rain, leaving the land parched and highly flammable. This combination of factors has created a dire situation for thousands of Los Angeles residents, many of whom have been forced to flee their homes. These homes, often belonging to the rich and famous, have been reduced to ashes in mere hours. This is the grim reality faced by Californians as they grapple with an increasingly severe and prolonged wildfire season. 7 fires are currently being tackled in California. The Palisades fire was first reported at 10:30 a.m. 1830 Greenwich Mean Time on Tuesday, January 7th. Within just 20 minutes, it grew from a 20-acre blaze to more than 200 acres. By Wednesday night, the fire had expanded to approximately 16,000 acres. At least 30,000 people have been ordered to evacuate their homes. The Eaton fire rapidly grew to cover 1,000 acres within the first 6 hours after breaking out. It started in Altadena in the hills above Pasadena at around 6:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday. By Wednesday night, the fire had spread to over 10,000 acres and 5 fatalities have been reported. The Hearst fire began burning just north of San Fernando at around 10:10 p.m. local time on Tuesday. It quickly grew to 850 acres, according to local officials, and has triggered evacuation orders in neighboring Santa Clarita. The Woodley fire broke out in Woodley Park at approximately 6:15 a.m. local time on Wednesday. According to the Los Angeles Fire Department, it has now been fully contained. The Olivos fire erupted in Ventura County, northwest of Los Angeles, and burned across about 11 acres. It's also been fully contained. The Lydia fire ignited around 2 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday in the Mountainous Acton area north of Los Angeles. It grew to cover nearly 350 acres, and as of 9 o'clock p.m., had been 40% contained. The Sunset fire broke out at approximately 6 o'clock p.m. in the Hollywood Hills, a residential neighborhood overlooking the historic Hollywood area. It currently spans about 50 acres and is 0% contained. A mandatory evacuation order remains in place. But there were also significant funding issues that may have hampered the firefighting efforts. A potentially leaked letter from LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley, dated December 17, 2024, warned Mayor Karen Bass about the repercussions of recent budget cuts. According to the letter, the $17 million reduction in the department's budget had severely limited the department's capacity to prepare for, train for, and respond to large-scale emergencies, including wildfires. This warning highlights the critical role that sufficient funding plays in maintaining readiness for natural disasters and other emergencies. The letter raises important questions about the impact of financial decisions on public safety, especially in a state like California, which is prone to wildfires. This is the actual footage of the firefighting plane, the C-415, also called Super Scooper. It has a big advantage compared to the other tankers since it does not have to land on airports stationed far away. The operation of the CL-415 begins with the aircraft's approach to a water source. The pilot skillfully maneuvers the plane toward a suitable body of water, such as a lake or river, ensuring that the location meets the necessary criteria for safety and efficiency. The approach requires careful navigation to align the aircraft with the water surface, taking into account factors like wind direction, water depth, and surrounding terrain. Once aligned, the aircraft initiates the water scooping process. A specialized scoop integrated into the plane's underbelly is lowered onto the water surface as the aircraft glides across it. This precise action allows the scoop to collect a significant volume of water, filling the internal tank within seconds. The process is carefully monitored to ensure the tank is filled to its optimal capacity without compromising the aircraft's balance or performance. With the water tank filled, the pilot retracts the scoop and skillfully ascends, transitioning the aircraft into departure mode. The CL-415 then heads directly toward the fire, navigating challenging conditions such as thick smoke, high temperatures, and potentially turbulent air. The journey demands precise coordination and constant communication with ground crews to identify the most effective drop zone. As the aircraft approaches the target area, the water drop is executed. The pilot releases the water from the tank in a controlled manner, ensuring it directly targets the flames or the surrounding areas to suppress and contain the fire. The timing and accuracy of the drop are critical as they maximize the effectiveness of the operation while minimizing the risk of surrounding environments. Following the drop, the aircraft returns to the designated water source to repeat the process. This cycle of scooping, departing, and dropping continues as needed, showcasing the CL-415's efficiency and reliability in aerial firefighting. The entire operation is a testament to the aircraft's specialized design and the expertise of its crew, working tirelessly to combat fires and protect communities. We make original videos from scratch, so please do subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos.
I've been 2.5 inches off the side. That tank usually goes up 7 feet. There's got to get a ladder up there. There's got to get a ladder up there.
I am in Pacific Pal. Image is vowing to rebuild, and he's a true survivor, recently battling black.
Some positive news on the other fire we're watching. There is progress in the Eaton fire, which devastated Altadena.
Yeah, containment is up to 15% compared to just 3% yesterday. K-County reporter Cara Finstrom is live in Altadena with new information on the damage and the schools, unfortunately. Good morning, Cara.
Good morning. That 15% number, though, a very good start to the day. This fire is continuing to burn, but largely in very remote terrain with the winds that we are expected to get again. Those containment numbers are very, very important. Take a look at this. There are firefighters here just kind of watching spots like this one. This is the Aldi's. From the outside, the building looks like it's still standing, but you can see inside there is still smoke rising and just the complete destruction. This fire just burning through here. Bottles left still. Looks like the box around them burned at the center. Just tough to look at. We also want to share.
It's happened at the East Memphis.
You talked with that.
Side airlifted to Regional 1.
He was shot through his back.
Flowers' family. She says his children.
Police office say they're looking for possible suspects involved in the shooting. If you have information, please reach out to Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH. Daryl?
Fox 13 Sierra Jordan live tonight. Thank you, Sierra.
Video obtained by First Alert 4 Investigate shows the moments two former St. Louis cops walked away from a man they'd found in Forest Park. He was shot in the head, but still alive. The officers never tried to help, call for backup, or make sure that other people were safe.
It's a common occurrence in the city of Culiacan. Corpses bearing marks of torture dumped by the side of the road at night and found the next day, despite reinforced security measures with soldiers and armored vehicles in support. Since September, nothing has been able to stop score settling between rival gangs. For the city's undertakers, it's become a grim routine.
We wait for the authorities to identify the bodies, and when the families arrive, we offer them our services. The other day, my colleague was caught in a shootout. While the corpses were being identified, the criminals came and shot people. Last week, I covered about 15 murders, but there are 5 of us at the funeral parlor, and we take it in turns.
This fratricidal war comes at a heavy cost for Mexicans. On the 25th of July, El Mayo Zumbada, a drug lord who until then had lived a relatively discreet life, was arrested in the United States, along with Joaquin Guzman Lopez. Joaquin Guzman Lopez is the son of El Chapo Guzman, who had run the powerful Sinaloa cartel for several decades, together with El Mayo. Did El Chapo's son betray his associate to the US authorities? There's nothing to prove it. But since then, the two factions of the cartel have declared war on each other. Shootings regularly break out in the city. Like this one, on the 21st of September, in a busy shopping mall. Former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who left power in September, sent in reinforcements to try to calm things down.
I would like to tell the people of Culiacan.
We've been in the middle of shootouts. We've been reporting on people who've been murdered. But in the official bulletins, which they started publishing late, we see that the death count falls short of areas.
Municipal rubbish dump. Poverty is extreme. Many here are displaced residents from rural areas, like this old man who was driven from his farm by gang members.
We had to leave everything. Everything. What could we do? They forced us to leave at gunpoint. Armed men are constantly fighting their...
We asked the government for help. We published articles, but no one helped us. And then we received a donation from the sons of El Chapo Guzman. They called us and told us we would receive shoes, uniforms, school supplies, computers, a TV, everything we needed. And when the supplies arrived, we saw the gang's initials on the boxes. We knew we would be heavily criticized, but at that moment, we really needed the supplies.
With Robinhood Gold, earn with high-yield cash, plus get a match on IRA contributions, so you can make the most of your money.
Listen up. If you've been injured in a recent car accident, what you do next can make or break how much money you get. Here's the biggest mistake.
On this road in El Paso, Texas, stretching as far as the eye can see, thousands of trucks make their way back to Mexico after dropping billions of dollars worth of goods bound for U.S. consumers.
This is a scene that you see every day. Millions of dollars of product are coming in from Mexico into the United States.
For the first time in more than 2 decades, Mexico overtook China as the largest importer of goods to the U.S. Mexican goods imported to the U.S. totaled $475 billion in 2023, about $20 billion higher than the previous year. During that same period, Chinese goods imported to the U.S. came to $427 billion, $110 billion less than the year prior, and imports from Mexico are still climbing. In the first 8 months of this year, U.S. imports from Mexico reached $334 billion, 5.8% higher than the same period in 2023. Fueling that trend are simmering trade tensions between Beijing and Washington, an effort to bring U.S. imports closer to home, and a burgeoning Mexican manufacturing base. But there's another factor at play. To avoid American tariffs, Chinese companies are using Mexico as a backdoor to the U.S.
With what you're moving within Mexico itself, the finished product, how much of those Chinese goods actually stay in Mexico, and how much roughly do you think those Chinese products come here to the United States?
I think there's a huge market for Chinese product in Mexico, but the big ticket item here is the U.S. market. That's why China's coming to Mexico.
What we're trying to do is bring stuff from all over the world to Mexico, manufacture here, and send it again abroad.
Chinese car companies, for example, are setting up shop in Mexico. Tariffs on Chinese goods date back to 2018, when the Trump administration launched a trade war with China. To take advantage of the Mexican trade, logistics companies like Maersk, DHL, and Uber Freight are ramping up their investments on both sides of the border.
These companies are coming to Texas. It's a wild, wild west, where they are buying up land to secure warehouse space.
At the center of it all is U.S. Customs and Border Protection, one of the world's largest law enforcement agencies with over 60,000 employees.
We will do a complete inspection on it, from instruments of terror to narcotics to country of origin to manifest discrepancies, everything.
More than 650,000 cargo trucks crossed the Isleta-Zaragoza Bridge in El Paso, Texas in 2022. So how is China able to circumvent U.S. tariffs? And what are logistics companies doing to prepare for the upcoming boom in Mexican trade? CNBC traveled to Mexico City and El Paso to find out. In an effort to avoid U.S. tariffs, Chinese companies are moving their raw materials and operations to Mexico. Jordan Dewart is the president of cross-border logistics company Redwood Mexico. In addition to this 100,000 square foot warehouse in El Paso, the company also has about 200 employees in Mexico.
How has the landscape changed since the start of the Trump trade war?
2% from the year prior. That's on top of container trade along the same route in 2020. The United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, which replaced NAFTA, went into effect 4 years ago. The agreement is up for renewal in 2026, and a focal point of those talks is expected to be trade with China.
Chinese companies, if they import directly into the United States, they are faced with tariffs. If they bring their goods into Mexico and those goods are improved upon or some value added to them, they then qualify for the USMCA.
In terms of what you have to do to have a product that's labeled Mexican, as opposed to Chinese in origin, you have to substantially transform it.
We want to go now on the phone to Artie Tapangarian. He is a developer, a longtime Pacific Palisades resident. I understand you've been there for about 30 years, and you built many of these homes, designed many of these homes. Of course, this is some of the most expensive real estate in the world when we talk about the ones that went up in the Pacific Palisades. Thank you for joining us. Tell me what's going through your mind right now. You're a victim of this fire and also someone who helped design what used to be there.
Yes, thank you. It's a very, very sober time for us. We lost, of course, our home, and my daughter's home was just completed nearby recently, and then one of the major icons of the properties on San Onofre that was, and many others. The school project, the village school in Pacific Palisades, that was another one of our properties and projects that we completed. And I had a chance to go through the area, and it's really, really, it's very surreal that how the whole community disappearing, so quickly. It's not just the homes. Homes, of course, are connected around the community, but the community of Pacific Palisades is destroyed, and it's not there, and it's going to be a long time before you can put all the pieces together.
Well, that's you talk about just the community, and I think that's what's striking so many people. We had
just you seeing the blocks of the areas just completely with no homes on, and then you have no grocery stores, you have no gas stations, no post office, no. Just this was I know.
Their children have moved into condos and things nearby. Those are now gone and have been taken. So it's not just the high-end, very luxury places and people with the means to rebuild. This is a community that really was special in so many ways because there were so many different people that had really made it.
That happened to us. It reminds me of the COVID time at the beginning of March of 2020. That how everybody kind of changed their perspective from materialistic side of life to the spirits and how people actually their emotions. And this just reminds me of a lot of that again.
Absolutely, I was saying the same thing about the COVID time. It was a crisis that everyone shared. Everyone was in it together. Everyone. I know you built Tom Hanks's house. You built a lot of these celebrity homes, these very expensive mansions. You say that you estimate 3 to 5 years before you can even build here again. Talk about what goes into rebuilding a community. It doesn't matter if it's big, luxurious homes or quaint cottages. What goes into rebuilding a community, and what are you looking at from a perspective of the builder? builder, and especially when we know that insurance companies have been pulling.
Do you ever feel like your relationship needs a little bit more guidance, or you're kind of stuck in a relationship rut? Let me.
Well, a new year means new state laws. New income tax brackets are going into place today, and this is the first time they've been adjusted since 2005. The new tax package also creates credits for things like buying electric vehicles or for businesses installing EV charging stations. The Prescription Drug Price Transparency Act is also going into effect today. Legislators say this will require drug producers and insurance companies to report drug price data to the public. And some big changes for incoming high school students will be going into effect for the 2025-2026 school year. The class of 2029 will have new graduation requirements than previous years.
More will be added to give students that opportunity to strike that relevant educational experience that we have discussed. The order may change, but no class per se has been cut.
To learn more about these and other laws going into effect in 2025, you can visit our website for a breakdown. That's at alwaysonkrqe.com.
This is the father of Leah Henry, the 11-year-old girl who was abducted on May 1st, 2001. Minutes before this footage was filmed, Tim received a call from the FBI. His daughter has been found, but he doesn't know more. March 4th, 2001, 200 miles away from where Leah lives, 9-year-old Nikki is playing outside her home in San Antonio when she's abducted in broad daylight. After a massive ground and air search from police in the community, the girl reappears in front of her mother's house. Her captor dropped her off before he disappeared. April 16th, 1 month later, 11-year-old Lisa is playing jump rope with her sister in her front yard when a man snatches her off the street. The horrified young sister describes the suspect as a white male driving a white hatchback. 2 weeks later, the girl reappears. Her captor vanishes. In 2001, a serial kidnapper is terrorizing the states of Texas and Louisiana, evading police for months, hunting children where they live. But on May 1st, 11-year-old Leah Henry will become the last victim of this predator. She will forever be known as the girl who escaped and brought him down. The year is 2001. In the suburb near southwest Houston, 11-year-old Leah lives a normal and happy life with her loving family, excited about the end of the school year. Weeks later, the girl reappears. Her captor vanishes. In 2001, a serial kidnapper is terrorizing the states of Texas and Louisiana, evading police for months, hunting children where they live. But on May 1st, 11-year-old Leah Henry will become the last victim of this predator. She will forever be known as the girl who escaped and brought him down. The year is 2001. In the suburb near southwest Houston, 11-year-old Leah lives a normal and happy life with her loving family, excited about the end of the school year. She's unaware that since the month of March, there's been a growing number of kidnappings in the neighboring cities. May 1st, 2001, at around 7:30 a.m., Leah gets on her bus, excited about getting to class, as there will be a celebration that day. It's 5 p.m., and Leah's mother calls her dad in a panic, worried that she hasn't come home yet. They check with the school, call her friends, drive around the neighborhood, but their daughter is nowhere to be found. One neighbor claims he saw Leah earlier that day, getting into a car with a man. Police are called, and relatives join the search across the city. May 2nd, Leah has been missing for almost 24 hours. The FBI joins the search, and Leah's parents go on television, begging the public for help. Nearly 200 volunteers flood in and form a ground search. Police find out about 2 previous kidnappings with eerie similarities to Leah's case. A white middle-aged man driving a white hatchback is hunting girls between 9 and 11, but the abductor has been evading police for months, and they still have no idea who he is. With every passing hour, the likelihood of finding Leah alive decreases. May 4th, it's been 3 days since Leah's abduction. At around 11 a.m., Leah's father Tim gets a phone call from the FBI. More than 250 miles away, at the Kerr County Sheriff's Department, Tim and his family are escorted into a secure room, where they learn the incredible news. Leah Henry has been found, alive, but visibly upset. The whereabouts of her captor are not yet disclosed to the family. As she's brought home surrounded by her parents and her big sister, a cheering crowd awaits her safe return. The young girl is smiling, yet her eyes hide the truth of what happened to her. As the news of her rescue is broadcasted to the world, only she can shed light on the nightmare she just went through. But before we hear her side of the story, there's something you should know. A few months ago, we covered the story of Christine Belford, the first victim of cyberstalking leading to murder in American history, when the Matusowitz family hired friends and neighbors to stalk the single mom. That story showcased the terrifying truth of online privacy, that we never know who has access to our information online. Predators are finding new and clever ways to get your personal data, and with new technologies like AI, it's becoming harder than ever to keep up. This is why Unseen has partnered with NordVPN. Behind every new true crime story Unseen delivers, there's hours spent scouring the internet, searching sketchy websites, putting our identity at risk. NordVPN allows us to do that with a clear head, free of worry. We want to give you the same opportunity to protect yourself against online criminals. By clicking the URL in the description of this video, Unseen is offering you the chance to save big on your next 2-year subscription, while also giving you 4 extra months. NordVPN is more than just a virtual private network. With features like threat protection, it defends your device against everyday cyber threats like malware and web trackers, which secretly collect information about you. With NordVPN, your digital fingerprint is safe. Click on the link below to get the Unseen offer at NordVPN. If you don't like it, you have a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, back to Leah Henry. Her story begins on May 1st, as she arrives home from school.
When my bus driver pulled up to my stop, I started to walk. A white car started to approach, and a man asked me if I babysit.
Leah knows not to talk to strangers, so she politely says no and continues to walk home. A little further down the street, as she begins to see her house, the man pulls up onto the sidewalk in front of her, his car blocking her from reaching the other side. He asks her if she would like to meet his children.
He was in normal clothes, he had glasses on. He was very friendly, nice to me. I felt like
helpless, distant, can see what's happening.
Crying.
As they get back on the road, the car isn't going very fast, and she considers the broken handle of the car door. She doesn't know if she can force it open, but this could be her only chance to escape. With her hands still tied behind her back, she throws herself at the door and scrambles blindly to try and open it, to no avail. The man sees her attempt and calmly tells her, "You'll pay for that." Not long after, he pulls over again, and as he puts it, punishes her for her behavior. He makes it clear that if she gets caught again, the punishment will be severe.
At that point, after everything had happened, I just felt like giving up. I felt like this was gonna kill me.
Late into the night, Leah can see the man driving up to a small hunting cabin. He then makes her walk inside at gunpoint and ties her hands above her head, this time with rope. He places the gun on top of the TV and deadbolts the door. And again, he forces himself on Leah.
He started to hit me.
Therapy has always been such a scary idea to me because I simply did not know where to get started. I didn't know how to find my...
Leah Henry will become the last victim of this predator. The cheering crowd awaits her safe return. The young girl is smiling, yet her eyes hide the truth of what happened to her. As the news of her rescue is broadcasted to the world, only she can shed light on the nightmare she just went through. But before we hear her side of the story, there's something you should know. A few months ago, we covered the story of
Hello, you're right. Sorry to bother you. You're right. Come in.
That's Carl.
News of her rescue is broadcasted to free 30-day money back of a highway. No one around can see what's happening inside the car.
He told me to crawl in the back, take my clothes off. I didn't know what was happening to me. I tried to scream. I tried to grab things that could, if I pinched it hard enough, every other bit of pain would go away. But when he was done, I started crying.
As they get back on the road, the car isn't going very fast, and she considers the broken handle of the car door. She doesn't know if she can force it open, but this could be her only chance to escape. With her hands still tied behind her back, she throws herself at the door and scrambles blindly to try and open it. To no avail. The man sees her attempt and calmly tells her, "You'll pay for that." Not long after, he pulls over again, and as he puts it, punishes her for her behavior. He makes it clear that if she gets caught again, the punishment will be severe.
At that point, after everything had happened, I just felt like giving up. I felt like this was gonna kill me.
Late into the night, on the first morning of her captivity, Leah wakes up as the man is tying her up to a table with a zip tie. He warns her that if she tries to escape, he would go after her family, or he would come and find her. After her punishment the night before, Leah is scared to death of what would happen if she disobeyed. And then, the man takes off, bolting the door shut from the outside. Leah is now alone, tied up, in the middle of nowhere. She tries to remove her binds and figures out how to wiggle out of the zip tie. Now free to move around the cabin, she considers leaving through the window, but fear takes over. On May 2nd, the man returns. Leah hears him pull up on the driveway and quickly gets back into her binds.
I remember him bringing home a newspaper that had my sister on it. And she was staring at it with this empty look, and all I wanted to do was comfort her.
The heartbreaking picture also comes as a relief, knowing that her parents are doing everything they can to find her. The man taunts her, telling her they will eventually give up, but he only fuels her determination.
I held on to the fact that they were looking for me. If they can fight, I can fight.
Leah makes a decision that she will do everything she can to make it out alive, but she knows she's dealing with a sick and twisted mind, so she will have to do everything he asks until she is free. On the second morning, the man leaves again, and Leah wiggles out of her zip ties again. This time, she takes out the camera that she has in her school bag.
I think that's the first time I decided that I needed to make note of everything that was happening to me, because if someone was going to find me, they needed evidence.
Leah takes pictures of everything, the inside of the cabin, the bruises on her body, the place she is tied up at, the surroundings outside. She also takes out her agenda and begins writing down in detail everything she went through. She might be too weak to fight him off, but she can outsmart him in her own way. When the night comes, the man returns to find Leah back in her zip ties. Leah knows what is waiting for her, that like the previous night, the man will do unspeakable things to her, but she needs to stay strong for her family. On the third morning, Leah wakes up to the sound of ruckus outside. She's alone, but doesn't dare move. After an hour, the man runs back inside and tells her to put her clothes on and grab her stuff. They're leaving.
I didn't know what was going on, but I knew he was feeling closed in on. The newspapers kept telling us that they kind of knew who this guy was.
The man puts a pillowcase over her head and guides her out to the car. All she can see is sunlight shining through. He sits her in the back of the vehicle and starts the car.
I'm sitting there wondering what's about to happen to me. Is he going to take me somewhere? Or is this about to get a whole lot worse?
At that moment, Leah hears tires rolling up on the gravel. The man gets out and tells her to stay quiet. Leah has no idea what is happening outside and who is coming up the driveway.
I received a call from dispatch that somebody thought they might have seen the suspect vehicle.
Sergeant Beleder of the Kerr County Sheriff's Department investigates the tip, bringing him to an isolated cabin in Kerrville, nearly 300 miles from the city of Houston.
When I got down the road, I saw a vehicle, but it wasn't the right color, and it had the wrong license plate on it.
The leader knows to look for a white hatchback, yet finds a red car parked down the driveway. What he doesn't know is, just minutes earlier, suspect Gary Dale Cox was painting his car from white to red. Sergeant Beleder is about to leave, but he has no idea he's just a few feet away from the serial kidnapper.
I saw somebody in the car, so well, I'll go tell them what I'm doing on their property.
As the police officer approaches the parked vehicle, the man gets out of the car with a gun in his hands. Leah is crouching inside, out of sight. She can hear a stranger's voice yelling, "Drop the gun," over and over. She knows it's a cop, but she's afraid, terrified that there's going to be a shootout. Leah remains still, waiting. She can hear the footsteps of the man moving away from the car. Her mind is racing.
It all happened so fast that I really had no time to think, and I just did it.
Next thing she knows, she's running outside toward the cop car. If anyone shoots, she will be in the crossfire, but she doesn't stop. When Beleder tells her to get in the back seat, she doesn't hesitate.
My mind is going 90 miles an hour. I felt like my best course of action then was try to get out of there.
As he's driving backwards down the driveway, Leah hears gunshots. The officer tells her to duck down, expecting any second a bullet to hit the vehicle. Then he grabs his police radio and calls for backup.
I said, I've got the girl, and I'm leaving.
300 miles away, in Houston, Leah's father Tim gets a phone call from the FBI.
We found her. She's alive. Good. I dropped the phone. We just jumped up. Police officer was there. Within 5 minutes, we were out of the house and the FBI headquarters.
A local pilot volunteers to fly Tim and his family the 300 miles to Kerrville. At the same time, Leah is escorted back to the sheriff's department in a police car.
I don't know if I felt safe yet, and I think what I needed was to be held by my family, because that was the only thing that was going to make me understand that it was truly over.
At the Kerr County Sheriff's Department, Leah is reunited with her mom and dad and her big sister. Tim hugs his daughter tightly, relieved to finally have her back.
I don't think I've ever been that happy. And that's true. I can't ever think of another moment in life that has brought that kind of joy to me.
I remember giving her the longest hug. She's here. I still have my sister here.
Leah's sister, whose picture gave her strength in her darkest moment, regains her smile. Leah is finally happy. Just a few miles away, Sergeant Beleder and the entire county police force are closing in on Gary Dale Cox's cabin. As it turns out, Cox took the...
If you host a vacation rental, but you're having a hard time finding
Scorpio season, and I heard you're looking for something a little dark, enticing, and spicy. These cookies are free.
Hello, you're right. Sorry to bother you. You're right. Come in.
That's Carl Aylesbrook, as police ask him about a baby in his care who stopped breathing.
Cool, like he was kind of catch his breath. He said about breathing, and then he just stopped.
Now Aylesbrook has learned his punishment for killing that baby. I have videos and details from the sad case of Elijah Shemwell. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. In January 2022, Carl Aylesbrook was a 16-year-old boy who was left to care for a 4-month-old baby. That 4-month-old Elijah Shemwell was a beautiful baby boy. They called him Eli for short. 4-month-old babies, they sleep, they eat, and they cry, and they can be really fussy, especially if they're teething. Eli was the son of a woman Carl knew, but not very well. Her name was India Shemwell. Police in Derbyshire in the UK say India went to the store on the evening of January 2nd and left in India. Eli was taken to the hospital. Police interviewed Carl Aylesbrook.
Okay. What relation to your mom's friend?
Surveillance video showed India Shemwell walking to the store and then paying for items at the cash register. She was gone for an hour or so.
And he was practically screaming for about an hour and a half. And then he kind of like went to, like a conscious state, but it wasn't. So like his eyes were partially open, but if he lifted his arm up, it just dropped. So it was like, but it was also like he was breathing, so it was like there, but he wasn't. And kind of just gave him time to come back round, let him go back to sleep, and then he was fine. He did it again like earlier on, and then.
What sort of time did you notice it was a bit like that?
I wouldn't really say myself. I'd say India would know better. So, cool.
I use a QR code on your screen and use our promo code CrimeFix to get an extra 25 cents back on every turned home.
Shout even quite regular. So it kind of just like cleaned it, gum, stopped it from bleeding, let him go to sleep, and then he was practically alright till about 8.
Carl Aylesbrook described what happened in the time that India was gone.
So, you said you were watching Netflix. He was fed up to sleep at 8:30. So what happened between 8:30 and 10 o'clock when? At what time do you think you fell asleep?
Probably in between that, so about 9. About 9.
And was that in the bedroom, not in the same room as?
No, that was in the living room. Also.
So you fell asleep in the living room? Yeah. And is that where Eli was?
He was in the bedroom. He's got like a little, like a swing type chair.
Right.
The conversation then turned to what happened when Carl Aylesbrook said he woke up. Eli's mom, he said, was still at the store.
So talk us through what you did when you woke up then.
Woke up, went and checked on Eli, just because he was crying. I seen that she wasn't in the bedroom with him, so came in here to get my phone because it was on charge, and messaged her to see where she was. And then I went and checked on Eli. Whilst I was checking on him, as I got back in the bedroom, Indy came back. And as she came back, he decided to go into like a drowsy form. About 10 minutes after that, he just stopped breathing. So then it kind of just, we ended up taking turns doing CPR for about 30-45 minutes till the ambulance came.
Gosh, it's really awful for you.
16th first time doing CPR, person and manager.
Police then walked through the house, which was pretty cluttered.
Whether that be, hopefully he'll be okay.
Yeah, hopefully.
Obviously we all hope that, but we have to prepare for all eventualities, so we just need as much information as possible. So what I'll probably do is I'll go out to the car and I just need to speak to my superiors about what you told us and see if we need to know anything else what we need to do next, okay? You're going to remain? Yeah, I'll stay here, yeah, that's fine.
Carl Aylesbrook then went downstairs and outside to smoke a cigarette. He talked about how the year was off to a really bad start.
It's been one hell of a start of the year.
Later, officers asked a question that will become very important in the investigation.
Anyone else been here today?
No.
So other than there's only been you, Indy, here all day. You been out tour?
Yeah, I've been to a shop and I've also been to like the petrol station.
3 days after this, Eli dies and the investigation ramps up. An autopsy reveals that Eli died as the result of a serious brain injury that the pathologist says is the result of Eli being shaken, and that he suffered broken ribs in the days before he died. Police believe Aylesbrook shook Eli while India was at the store. More than a year passes, and police go back to interview Carl Aylesbrook in January of 2023. They've had time to examine phones, social media accounts, and more. The detectives confront Carl Aylesbrook.
Have you seen that video before?
I'm pretty sure he showed me last time.
We didn't.
It was either that or it was one of Indy raising his arm up and dropping the head.
Yes, it's that one.
Very simple, because it recorded the same day. So.
Okay, so when do you think this was recorded?
Same day as last one.
The detectives then turn up the heat a little bit more on Aylesbrook.
Is there any explanation you can give for the condition that Eli is in that he looks like he's not with us, his eyes are virtually closed, he is gasping for breath?
The questioning then turns to photos that Aylesbrook sent to India that night.
There's an image set at 21:29:47 which is deleted. You sent it to India, but it's then deleted. Do you know what that is? Do you recall what that is? Okay. And then there is an image that's accessed and modified on Snapchat, which is similar. See this one here? Do you remember doing that?
No.
So your phone goes very quiet for 7 minutes and 2 seconds. There's no activation on your phone at all. Do you remember what you were doing at that point? Okay. Do you remember being concerned at that point? Were you concerned about Eli's crying at that point? So the activity on the phone continues. India is using her phone as well. Do you recognise this image, Carl? Do you know who that's supposed to be? India responds, it looks like you and Eli.
This next part is pretty telling. Watch the body language.
Okay, do you remember being concerned at that point? Were you concerned about Eli's crying at that point?
Carl Aylesbrook does not answer the question, and you see him with his arms crossed. The questioning continues.
So the activity on the phone continues. India is using her phone as well. Do you recognise this image, Carl? Evidence to state that you now cannot remember.
16 at the time of the incident, he can have had no doubt about the potentially deadly force he was using on Elijah. Elijah's final hours would have been unbelievably painful, and as a father, it is inconceivable how anyone could behave in such a way to a defenseless child of just 4 months. The detective also had harsh words for India Shemwell, who left Eli alone with Carl Aylesbrook. While only Aylesbrook is responsible for Elijah's death, his mother, India Shemwell, was quite simply an appalling mother who was more concerned with her sexual relationships and drug taking than ensuring the safety of her child. Aylesbrook was sentenced to life in prison, but can be eligible for parole after serving 14 years. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Oh my god.
And random too.
How old is Brian?
19.
He's 19.
What's going on, man? Okay, so parents have some concerns of some stuff they may have found in your room?
Yeah, I believe so.
And what would it be?
A human head and hands.
Like, for real human head and hands?
Yes.
From?
That fellow who went missing recently.
Which fellow was that?
Warren Brown.
Warren Brown? When did he go missing?
The night of the 27th.
The night of the 27th? Okay, and how did you end up with him?
I murdered him.
With what?
A knife.
Why would you have done that?
I've always wondered what murder felt like.
Starting today, anyone can monetize
Touchdown. Cash it.
You hit another TD bet on DraftKings?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that you can't do?
So then I said.
On September 15th, 2021, Danielle Harper, 29, and Michael Simmons, 31, celebrated their wedding. The couple, who met at the annual Tech Innovation Charity Gala in 2018. Danielle, born in Portland, Oregon, had established herself as a principal dancer at one of the city's leading ballet companies, while Michael, a Stanford University graduate, worked as a senior software engineer at a prominent Silicon Valley technology firm. In 2017, during a troubled relationship with Eric Lawson, 34, a real estate developer from Seattle, she had contracted HIV. The diagnosis came from a San Francisco Department of Public Health Testing Center on January 12, 2021, 8 months before her wedding to Michael. Medical records from a major San Francisco medical center documented that Danielle's infection was well-controlled and asymptomatic. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, Danielle's infectious disease specialist, had strongly advised disclosure to any sexual partners. However, Danielle, fearing the potential collapse of her relationship with Michael, chose to maintain silence about her condition. Eric Lawson, who had relocated to San Francisco's Marina District in 2020, began a systematic campaign of harassment against Danielle. Between March and August 2021, he sent 47 documented text messages and 23 emails threatening to expose her HIV status. One message from July 15th, 2021, warned Michael deserved to know what kind of person he was really marrying. On October 3rd, 2021, Eric escalated his threats by creating an anonymous email account to contact Michael. The email, recovered later by investigators, warned about Danielle's secret and urged Michael to get tested for HIV. Michael, initially dismissing the message, decided to undergo testing at a local medical center on October 10, 2021. The test The test results, delivered on October 17, 2021, confirmed Michael's HIV-positive status. Dr. James Morrison, the attending physician, documented Michael's shocked reaction and immediate suspicion of Danielle's involvement. That evening, surveillance footage from their apartment building showed Michael returning home at 7:42 p.m., marking the beginning of a confrontation that would ultimately lead to tragedy. Phone records show Michael made 3 calls that night, one to his parents in Boston, lasting 47 minutes, another to his personal lawyer, lasting 23 minutes, and a final call to Eric Lawson, whose number he obtained from Danielle's old contact list, lasting 12 minutes. This sequence of events, meticulously documented through phone records and witness statements, set in motion a chain of events that would culminate in violence and death. By December 2021, Michael had moved out of their shared apartment to a temporary residence in Pacific Heights, initiating divorce proceedings through the San Francisco Superior Court. The legal documentation cited irreconcilable differences and willful endangerment as grounds for dissolution. Cuts to her hands, which Dr. Wright later classified as typical self-inflicted wounds common when handling a knife without a proper grip during a violent attack. Despite these injuries, Danielle showed no signs of the defensive bruising or trauma that would be expected in a case of self-defense against an aggressive attacker. The living room showed clear signs of a struggle, with an overturned coffee table, broken wine glass, and displaced furniture. However, crime scene investigators noted that some aspects of the disorder appeared staged. Several items had been broken but laid down carefully rather than scattered randomly as would be expected in a genuine struggle. A search of the apartment revealed evidence suggesting premeditation. In the kitchen trash, investigators found a receipt from a local convenience store showing the purchase of cleaning supplies and rubber gloves just hours before the murder. Security footage from the store confirmed Danielle making these purchases at 4:37 p.m. that afternoon. Detective James Martinez, leading the investigation, noted several inconsistencies in Danielle's initial statement. She claimed Michael had attacked her during an argument about their divorce, but his position and injuries indicated he had been taken by surprise while sitting down. Furthermore, all 14 stab wounds were found to have been inflicted within a short time frame, suggesting a focused attack rather than a chaotic self-defense scenario. The manila envelope Michael had brought contained updated divorce proceedings and a notice of intent to pursue criminal charges regarding the HIV transmission. These documents were found scattered on the floor, several pages marked with bloody fingerprints. This discovery provided investigators with a potential motive for premeditated murder rather than self-defense. By 11:45 p.m., Danielle Harper was taken into custody. During initial
Hi, I was wondering if we could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station.
What's going on, son? I don't see there.
It's personal business.
Whoa! Women, how do you come to my house?
And I'm a good woman. I don't do naughty things.
The lives of family lifestyle influencers Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke imploded on August 30th, 2023, when one of Ruby's 6 children was discovered weak and hurt. The other 5 had not been accounted for at this time, and law enforcement wasted no time in launching a full investigation. As the police delved into the twisted dynamic that had grown between the 2 women, they never could have anticipated the depths of the depravity the children were subjected to, or the mind-boggling justifications offered by the perpetrators.
I just want my kids back. I want my family back.
Adults have a really hard time understanding that children can be full of evil and what that takes to fight it.
The following report is based on police records. When Dan Clarkson answered his doorbell at 10:46 a.m. on August 30th, 2023, he never could have expected his actions would kickstart a nationally publicized police investigation. However, as soon as he laid eyes on the young boy outside, he immediately knew something was very, very wrong. His Ring camera captured the heartbreaking conversation that ensued.
Yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station. Well, actually, just one's fine.
What's going on, son? I don't see there.
It's personal business.
This was actually the second neighbor the boy had attempted to contact. At the first house, there was no answer, so he'd been forced to move on. The disturbing reason he was seeking help came out when Dan made this emotional call to 911.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. Said he just came over from a neighbor's house. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
While Dan was on the phone with 911, his wife gave the boy, who introduced himself as Russell, snacks to eat while waiting for help to arrive. But shockingly, there was something more appalling about the boy's condition than his extreme malnutrition.
He has duct tape around his injury. There's sores around him. Yeah, there's sores around him. I think there's a good chance he's been moved.
And he also has
he has around the
wrist
ankle.
as well.
He has wrist as well. Okay, this boy has been.
Need immediate attention.
And yet the most heartbreaking revelations were yet to come.
Okay, this boy has been. This kid has obviously been. I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. He says what's happened to him is his fault.
We need the police here now.
The police and an ambulance were already on the way. During the tense waiting period, Russell revealed that he'd been staying with his mother and her friend, Jody Hildebrandt, since May. Terrifyingly, he added that he wasn't the only child in Jody's house. His 2 sisters, ages 9 and 14, were still inside.
I'll take more.
As Russell underwent medical assessment, more police officers arrived.
We need to identify the house. If there's 2 other kids there, we need to go do a security sweep of the house. Help them.
They were about to realize that they'd gotten there in the nick of time. As the police staged in Dan's driveway, a woman drove up in her car and announced that she was searching for a 12-year-old boy. She gave her name as none other than Jody Hildebrandt, the woman Russell said his family had been staying with. Cleverly, the police didn't tell Jody how much they already knew. They just took down her address and said they would come to speak with her shortly. She didn't have to wait long.
Police officers, open up!
Got me right there.
Go ahead.
Come on.
Open the door! Jody, will you step out?
I have my turn.
That's great. Step out of the house.
No, I'm not gonna
Step out of the house. Step out of the house.
No.
We're just gonna sit there.
Women, how do you come to my house?
Right there.
You can come into my house. Do you have a search warrant?
We'll explain it after this.
You can't just come into my house without a search warrant.
Jody was mistaken about the need for a warrant to enter the home because the police already had probable cause due to a 911 call that the neighbors had placed after Russell showed up at their door. There was a clear emergent need to enter and a warrant wasn't necessary. The police must account for the welfare of the other 2 children. They certainly had their work cut out for them, though, because the house was massive. During the search, the police found one room that appeared to be set up for filming. This, they would learn, was because Jody and Ruby both had a significant online presence. More details would emerge throughout the investigation, revealing the dark side of these social media influencers. To ensure that they left no corner unchecked, the investigators retrieved the blueprints of the house. This turned out to be a brilliant idea, as the schematics revealed something that might have been overlooked otherwise. Outside, Jody did not appear to be shy about expressing her displeasure at the intrusion.
I have Airbnb guests.
It's you in here? I'm Sergeant Tobler. What's your name? I just have one. Where's your sister at?
Contact one.
You okay? Huh? You doing okay? You don't want to talk to me? Yeah, that's okay. Can you come with me though? We got Jody out here. You know Jody?
According to the information Jody gave, this was Russell's 9-year-old sister Eve.
We want to be best buddies, but we're getting a little mad here because he won't give me his shoes. Guess what? I learned how to ride a bike with no training wheels. Come here, I'll show you.
Despite the officer's gentle approach, she sat eerily still and quiet, hardly giving a sign that she could even hear him.
You take your time, bud. I'm in no hurry. I'm a police officer. Did you know that? I don't mean to hurt you at all. doing okay? You scared? Yeah? You're okay. Do you need help? I'm not gonna hurt you. Promise. See this right here? It's a badge. It tells me I don't hurt people. I'm just here to make sure you're okay. And I get if you're scared. I would be too. Okay? You wanna come with me?
Still, Eve didn't respond. They hatched a new plan to win her over with pizza. While they waited for the food to arrive, the officers kept her company with the utmost patience, refusing to rush her out of the closet until she made the choice to leave.
It's okay if I just sit here with you. We don't have to say anything if you want to. Okay. I'll just sit here with you.
Meanwhile, back with Russell, the EMTs got a close-up look at the duct tape and wounds around his ankles. What they found was almost unspeakably gruesome. But even this was overshadowed by what Russell said next. In between bites of the snacks from the neighbors, he told the police officer documenting his injuries additional details, which made the situation all the more sickening.
You're not in trouble with me, okay? We're just trying to figure out what's going on. Our main focus right now is you, okay? Who put the ropes on you? Supposed to help you out.
The police report revealed the chilling answers that were redacted in the body cam footage. Russell said that Jody and his mother, Ruby Franke, had restrained him with ropes to help him with what he'd been choosing. How the women had chosen to treat the resulting wounds left EMTs puzzled. The officer who spoke with Russell repeated the distressing details to his supervisor on the phone.
They put cayenne pepper mixed with honey and then covered that with the plastic saran wrap and then the duct tape over the wounds.
Detectives have found evidence of the honey and cayenne mixture in the upstairs bathroom, along with more ropes, used bandages, and other wound dressings.
When medical got there, they started cutting the stuff off him, and then you can see like the dark around his ankles. You can smell it. When they went to go peel it, they thought it was some of the dressing. It was actually his skin that was peeling.
Obviously, the police wanted to talk to Russell's mother to understand what could possess someone to treat a child in such a manner. As of yet, though, Ruby Franke, along with Russell's older sister, were still unaccounted for. Jody certainly wasn't sharing where Ruby was, as her behavior became increasingly strange as the house search continued. When this officer seemed unreceptive to her stare, she tried a different target.
You wait for me to say something, or?
Inside, the search went on for more children, especially Julie, the older sister Russell said was at Jody's house. There was no sign of her yet, so the police decided it was time to confront Jody about what they found when referencing the blueprints. A safe room in the basement, locked with a vault door.
I have a question for you. You have a room downstairs that has a safe wheel on the front. How do we get access to that to ensure that there's no one else in this home?
Adam. They do need to search if there's somebody else, so I can give them access to make sure there's nobody in there.
After further back and forth to get the lock combination from Jody, a team returned to the basement to open the safe. Upstairs, additional officers were still trying to gain the trust of the little girl in the bathroom closet.
Found dead skin.
She found dead skin.
Dead skin.
Get out from underneath my bed. Right now.
Sorry, Mom.
I am more upset that you came in my room when you knew you weren't supposed to. You knew that it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
You're still gonna have the consequence of not having your nails done for a month.
Mom.
It's a deal. Give me a hug.
Mom. Can I help you too to get paid? Because I want a lot of money.
They likely hoped that the arrival of the pizza would change things in their favor, but they were in for yet another surprise.
I'll put the skin, okay? You want to hurry? You can eat. There it goes.
Despite how painfully thin she appeared, Eve didn't go for the food right away. Eve proceeded to eat the entire pizza and requested 2 more large slices from the lunch that the police had. As Eve ate, the plan was to focus on opening the safe, but suddenly a new priority emerged. With no warning, Ruby Franke, Russell and Eve's mother, arrived on scene. After determining that she had no weapons on her, she was taken to a separate area of the house to wait out the search. The police would check in with Ruby once they finished going through the house. The only place left to look was the basement safe room. When they opened the door, though, they were likely crushed. Julie was not inside. At first glance, the room looked to be nothing more than a barren bolt hole reserved for emergencies. When they started opening drawers, though, they turned up some stomach-churning evidence. Handcuffs, a length of rope, and a carabiner. Based on the condition of Russell and Eve, the police received an official search warrant that enabled them to collect these items, along with many of the electronics, as evidence. But even after being in the house for hours, there was still no sign of Julie or the other Franke siblings. The only certain thing was what should happen with Jody and Ruby. They were both placed under arrest for aggravated child abuse.
Okay, just place your hand behind your back for me. Perfect.
During the arrest process, the officers likely noticed some strange behavior from Ruby. She didn't say a single word, even when put in the back of a police car with Jody. The police had to hope she would be more verbose when the time came to ask her how Russell and Eve had gotten in such miserable conditions.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. She is definitely not a talker.
She's not. Neither is anyone.
Even if I ask her a name or just like, not even asking about things, she looks at me and goes,
While Jody was at least responding to direct questions, whether she would respond to the hard ones police had in store was yet to be seen.
I'm a little nervous.
You're that, you know, to be honest with you, if I was sitting over there, I'd be a little nervous too. So don't worry about it. We're just here to talk, to get your side.
So I trust my attorney. He said, don't say anything. And I said, I have nothing to hide. And he's like, I know that, but just let me be there with you when you talk. So you guys seem nice people. I'd like to just tell you, but I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're gonna flip my words. I'm a psychologist. I've watched people flip things all the time. So I get it. I sit on your side. I get it. It looks sad that I don't want to answer anything, but it's not because I'm trying to be difficult.
Even though Jody refused to talk without a lawyer, trying to get information from Ruby was astronomically more difficult.
We're just here. Do you want to talk to me about where you live or how many kids you have?
And unwilling to talk, the police still had no idea why. Answers, though, were closer than anyone thought. When the detectives first got to the police station, they found a surprise visitor waiting. Ruby's husband, Kevin Frankie, was there, and he wanted to pick up his kids. With so many burning questions pertaining to the Frankie family, Kevin was detained and taken to a third interrogation room where he was read his rights.
How did you find out that you needed to come here to the street?
I received a message that I needed to come pick up my kids from the police department in Highlands.
And who is that message from?
Well, I prefer not to say right now.
Does it make sense that that would happen? I'm just not aware of anyone who did that from our department.
Right. And I'm not comfortable saying right now who reached out to me.
Was that Jody?
No, I'm not going to answer that question.
Kevin was keeping quite close-lipped. However, it wasn't all bad news. Back at Jody's house, Eve finally seemed to be warming up to law enforcement.
You don't want to talk? Okay. There's nothing at all you want to talk about? It's okay, talk to me. Are you scared? We helped your brother. And we got him some help too. That's what we want to do for you. We want to get you some help too. We are safe. We will not hurt you, and we won't do anything to hurt you.
It took a total of 4 hours before Eve was willing to leave the closet with medical personnel. When examining her in the ambulance, the EMTs discovered that she had wounds on her feet and decided that she and Russell both needed to go to the hospital. Thankfully, as Kevin's conversation with police continued, he was willing to provide some crucial context.
And how many kids do you have, Kevin?
I have 6 kids.
So are they all living with you, or?
No, I haven't seen them for over a year.
Any of them?
No, none of them.
For a year?
Over a year.
Okay.
I've been in a separation.
From who?
From my wife and family. Ruby invited me to leave the home while I thought about the choices that I made in my life and the way that I treated her.
And did you ever try to reach out to the kids, drop by the home, or was there?
I honored the no separation boundary that we agreed to.
When was the last time you saw Ruby?
The last time I saw her was the 18th of this month. We met to, she requested me to sign over vehicles, or the titles to the vehicles that she drives were all in my name.
When's the last time you physically saw Russell or Eve?
The day that I moved out, July 24th, 2022. So my job is to financially provide for
I was trying to figure out how much of a role do you play in the caretaking of specifically of those 2 kids?
I pay the bills.
Okay.
With my job, I provide the money, goes into a shared bank account, and that's my only involvement.
As the conversation went on, Kevin seemed to be just as in the dark as the investigators.
Who lives in that home with your, is it ex-wife? Is it currently a separated wife? Like, who lives in that home with your children?
How do you take 20,000 children in the middle of New York City without anybody seeing? They are being put into buses. They are given certain clothes. Some of them were taken out in boxes. You can call them crates. You can call them caskets of dead people, although they were live children in there.
I mean, we could talk about tunnels all we want. The non-believers will say, where's the proof?
When I go into the tunnels, I can't take my phone, and if you're going to do it, the psychopaths will eliminate you. So some pictures I saw that are real, and I was surprised to see them.
But there are many children down there.
Yes. But they're not in the main rooms. They're in the hidden rooms within the walls of the tunnels.
Do you have an idea of the number of children that we're talking about?
It's huge. It's numbers you can't comprehend.
Stop paying for ChatGPT and use this secret AI tool instead. First, visit this site and...
In that home with your children?
To be honest, I don't know. I know that she's there with 4 of the children, and our 2 older children have moved out.
This likely came as a shock to investigators. If there were 4 Frank...
In that home with your children?
To be honest, I don't know. I know that she's there with 4 of the children, and our 2 older children have moved out.
This likely came as a shock to investigators. If there were 4 Frankie children still living at home, that meant they weren't just missing Julie, but another one of Russell's teenage sisters, Abby. Before launching into a frantic search, the detectives decided to finish talking to Kevin, hoping he could give them an idea of where to look for the girls. As the conversation went on, though, Kevin's story only got stranger.
Who's this female Jody that your wife was? Do you know a female named Jody?
She is a therapist and a life coach, and she's...
Do you respect her?
Do I respect her? Yeah, I think she is a very honest, truthful person, yes.
Okay. Is your wife a partner of hers? Is your wife a roommate with her? Your kids are living in her house is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not aware of that, but I know that they've been in business for the last year filming, so every week a podcast goes up and I listen to it.
What's the name of it?
Connections with an X.
This would explain the film set discovered in Jody's house. As it turned out, Jody and Ruby both had a significant following on Instagram and YouTube. Jody was a therapist, and her accounts focused on counseling and family dynamics in alignment with the Church of Latter-day Saints, of which she and Ruby were both members. She called her program Connections, and had written several books sharing her methods, and even taught online Zoom classes on the topics of family health and harmony. Ruby, meanwhile, created more slice-of-life content, cataloging daily life with her family as members of the Mormon faith. Her main platform was a YouTube account titled 8 Passengers, supplemented with an Instagram under the same name. In due time, the police would learn that the content made by Ruby and Jody had become unimaginably twisted behind the scenes.
Are you involved with their business efforts, or no?
And were you involved in the 8 Passengers account with your family?
Yes. I was in videos.
Recently, Ruby's online presence had undergone a shift. She rebranded to Truth Mom, but began focusing less on her own channel in favor of working with Jody on Connections.
You guys got a lot of heat for neglect and child abuse. A lot of people commented those things on there. Why were they commenting those things?
That's a good question. We had a son who was acting out in very selfish behavior.
Just Chad?
Yes, this was Chad. And none of this is strange or odd. You can get on YouTube and find out all sorts of stuff on this.
Eventually, Ruby stopped posting on her private YouTube account altogether, which Kevin said eliminated 90% of the family's income. Her last video on Jody's channel, though, had come out just 2 days ago. In the interrogation room, Kevin shared more about the situation, which led to public outcry against the Frankies.
He was being very cruel and mean to his siblings that he shared a room with. And so we removed him from the room. And we said, you can sleep anywhere you want. Sleep on the couch, sleep on the pull-out bed, sleep on the floor, for all we care, but you're not sleeping in that room with your brother. He chose to sleep on a beanbag. So 9 months later, he had made a lot of changes in his life, and he was ready to, and we had moved by that time. And so we had a new house, and he was ready to move into his own bidder, made a video about it. And in the video, he mentioned something to the effect of, I've been sleeping for 9 months on a beanbag. And that is what all the uproar was about.
This wasn't Ruby's only run-in with the law. Shockingly, just 5 days before her arrest, she'd been pulled over while driving with her kids in the car.
Hello. You know how fast you're going right there? No. Okay. Got you going 57 and a 35.
Ruby was sent on her way with only a speeding ticket. Back with Kevin, he explained that the situation with his oldest son, Chad, was the catalyst for Jody getting involved with the family. She was hired as Chad's therapist and had the boy personally paying her $900 a month. From there, her involvement with the family only grew. How this could have led to the breakup of the family and the near starvation of 2 of the children was yet to be explored.
During your marriage, how was disciplining your kids? How would you discipline your kids?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question.
Are you aware of the physical condition of your children?
No, I've chosen to trust my wife with the children. That was part of the agreement of our separation.
Kevin was about to learn the harrowing consequences this decision has caused.
We received a phone call from 911 on our dispatch that a 12 to 13-year-old boy was knocking on doors in a neighborhood asking for food and water. So he had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles, and those were covering rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said. That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital. A warrant has been applied and granted by the Department of Child and Family Services to remove both Russell and Eve from your wife's care. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Would you condone that behavior?
Would I condone that behavior?
That's my job. My job is to find out your knowledge of treatment of these precious children.
No. Again, I don't know the details, or I don't know, but as you described that sounds
horrible, disgusting. No human being should be treated like that.
The investigators stepped out to give Kevin a few private moments to come to terms with what he'd just learned. When the investigative team returned 10 minutes later, Kevin took the opportunity to ask a burning question.
What's going to happen? It's my wife. I love my wife.
I don't know. I'm being honest with you. I don't know. That had to do with
you. Charges against my wife.
Possibly. I think given the circumstances, that's highly appropriate, but again,
That night, the police decided that Ruby would be booked into jail to await her attorney. Even this, though, failed to get a reaction from her.
Makes you want to let you know what criminal charges for, so you're under arrest.
And 10 minutes later, Kevin took the opportunity to ask a burning question.
What's going to happen to my wife? I love my wife.
I don't know. I'm being honest with you. I don't know. That had to do with you.
Charges against my wife.
Possibly. I think given the circumstances, that's highly appropriate. But again,
That night, the police decided that Ruby would be booked into jail to await her attorney. Even this, though, failed to get a reaction from her.
I just want to let you know what criminal charges were, so you're under arrest. It's going to be.
Take a look at.
Hey, how is Whoa, 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 whoa! Wait a minute, how do you come to my house?
Loaded on August 30th, 2020.
My word?
About, yeah. Yeah, I can tell you're caught off guard.
I thought I was just going to pick up my kids for what, I don't know what or why, but that's why I'm taking them back with me. Everything you're sharing to me just sounds like a made-up story. Like
Os voy a contar la importancia del Starship.
We want you to achieve your dreams and become, one of the greatest chefs.
a story. Like I have no idea what you're talking about. Like it sounds like a horror movie. And what you're sharing with me just feels like a sucker punch. I feel responsible. Separating, leaving. It hurts. I know you're all doing your jobs. I know you all have the best interests of my kids in mind. I appreciate that.
Thank you, thanks. That means a lot.
I just want my kids back. I want my family back. My wife back.
It was doubtful either Ruby or Jody would be getting out of jail anytime soon. Jody grappled with this through the lens of religion while speaking with a friend she called from the county jail.
And I don't know if I'm going to be like some kind of example, but when I get out of here, I have a story to tell, and I'm going to try to do everything I can to protect the children, because that's what's happening. It's like kids are being just horribly abused. But I have just been begging him, like, you've got to explain this to me. Like, I cannot logically figure out what's going on here. I mean, I should be here. I haven't done anything wrong.
Ruby, too, made some equally baffling claims during her jailhouse phone calls.
But the most upsetting thing is that I am completely misunderstood. That is the most horrible feeling. Like, my own family misunderstands me. They misinterpret me. And poor Jody, they misinterpret her. They misunderstand her. She puts her neck out on the line for people, and then they get mad at her. I mean, it is just horrendous. It's horrendous. And you know what? Every Joseph Smith, every wonderful man of God has had to be misunderstood. And I'm a good woman. I don't do naughty things. This is what it meant.
It wasn't all dark and twisted news, though. In a stroke of luck, the police located Julie and Abby. Shockingly, they were nowhere near the family home in Springville. Rather, they were located more than 20 miles away, at a house belonging to Ruby's friend and fellow Connections member, Pam. How she'd gotten there, though, remained in question.
People, and then they get mad at her. I mean, it is just horrendous. It's horrendous. And you know what? Every Joseph Smith, every wonderful man of God has had to be misunderstood. And I'm a good woman. I don't do naughty things. This is what it meant.
It wasn't all dark and twisted news, though. In a stroke of luck, the police located Julie and Abby. Shockingly, they were nowhere near the family home in Springville. Rather, they were located more than 20 miles away, at a house belonging to Ruby's friend and fellow Connections member, Pam. How she'd gotten there, though, remained in question. Pam was handcuffed when the police arrived and agreed to answer some questions while waiting for additional investigators to arrive. While one officer sat with her, the other took the opportunity to check in with Julie.
Do you need medical attention at all? Okay. Is there a reason you're so scared right now? It's us? Okay. Well, I'm sorry if you've had a negative interaction with law enforcement in the past, okay? My intention is not to scare you. Do you go to school?
Down the driveway, Pam was unhandcuffed when investigators arrived from Springville. She told them that she'd received a call from Ruby asking her to pick up two of her daughters while she dealt with a family emergency. Up until this point, the officers were under the impression that it was only Julie at the house, but Pam clarified that her older sister Abby was also there. Thankfully, neither she nor Julie appeared to be in physical distress like Russell or Eve. Julie and Abby appeared hesitant to go with DCFS representatives when they arrived, but were safely taken into custody to await the outcome of the investigation. The uncertainty over Abby and Julie's whereabouts had been answered, but so many questions remained. First and foremost, the quandary of what could have happened to leave Russell and Eve so frail and traumatized. Kevin returned to the police station with his lawyer for a second interview. The additional details he was about to share were nothing short of astonishing.
Have you found the pen papers?
The pen papers.
So it described all of the visions and trances and everything that Jody and Ruby went into.
How thick would you say it was?
It was like 3 inches thick or so. And there were hundreds of pages of written documents. It's something Jody would not want found.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't want to destroy it.
Because we do have Ruby's journal, which is from those dates that you mentioned.
These things are going to be so... The stuff she wrote in the pen paper, she would not write in her journal. The stuff she wrote in the pen papers was not intended to be read by anybody until God would decree them to be written as scripture for the whole world to read. Okay.
I believe that's what we have.
It wasn't certain whether the documents found by the police were actually Ruby's pen papers or just a journal. Regardless of what they were called, the contents revealed a wealth of heinous secrets. On July 10th, 2022, Ruby wrote, "Eve and Russell have been in so much deviant behavior they won't control their bodily functions. I never would have suspected the cold, dead heart Russell has." Ruby echoed these sentiments in one of the phone calls she made from jail.
Adults have a really hard time understanding that children can be full of evil and what that takes to fight it.
According to the journal, Russell and Eve were locked in closets, made to do physical labor, wall sits, jump on a trampoline, stand out in the rain, and carry heavy boxes up and down the stairs for hours on end. When Eve slipped and fell while carrying the boxes, Ruby accused her of doing so on purpose, and then shaved her head as punishment. And this was just brushing the surface of what the children endured.
I've never had a kid quite like Eve, but she does not like to sit and listen. I don't know if that's just her personality and she just needs me to be more strict with her than what was required with some of the other kids, or if she is displaying hyperactivity tendencies. So I'm going to try to figure that out today. I honestly don't know which way it's going to go. She knows that I mean it, and I'm going to carry through with it. If she absolutely is not capable, then I'm going to maybe take further measures to figure out if there's hyperactivity tendencies going on, or if she stays and she's really good and she listens, then it probably just means she needs a little bit more of a strict routine with her.
According to Kevin, the fight against so-called evil had not originated with the children. In fact, the downward spiral had begun more than a year prior under some very strange circumstances.
We went out to like a dinner afterwards, and that's where Jody really opened up to the women in a private conversation that she believed she was being tormented and haunted by shadow figures every night. And that was spooky.
Ruby also revealed that Russell and Eve still sometimes failed to control their bodily functions. She presented this as a method by which they defied her. Back with Kevin, he alleged that Jody's experiences had rapidly grown more intense.
She was walking along the beach with Jesus, and Jesus challenged her to go sleepwalk on the water, and it was a whole lesson on walking on the water.
And that was still just the tip of the iceberg. The more investigators read of Ruby's journal, the more depraved the story became. Tuesday, big day for Evil, she wrote on July 11th. All night, Eve screamed and cried and hit her head on the tile floor. Today, Jody confronted her. Eve admits to putting on a show for her mother. Eve said she wants to be pitiful. When the investigators read on and learned what torment Eve had endured to reach this level of desperation, they likely didn't know whether to be enraged or heartbroken. Jody mentioned her experiences with what she called the spirit in one of her jail phone calls.
When I feel the spirit, I have two physiological reactions. I get really shaky, like I'm shivering, like I'm cold, or I feel heat, like I have fever run through me. It felt like I was burning up, and I was just shaking with gratitude. Like, here's your answer. Here's what this is.
Back with Kevin, he revealed that while Jody's alleged visions had initially seemed positive, things quickly took a much darker turn, and things changed inside the house.
There was a lot of satanic ones. When she would go into possession mode, she would go
fasting. In his second interview, Kevin continued his description of what it was like to live with Jody.
I can't explain some of the stuff that happened while we were there. Like, crash.
And took us
a bit anymore, but I mean, he was going over there every night, and he'd be there for like 4 hours. Then he'd be like, I'm fighting evil spirits, I'm casting demons out, I'm crazy stuff going on. And finally he got to the point where he's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, there needs to be some sort of resolution.
After the bishop left, the first attempted fix was for Jody to move in with another family involved with connections. The opinions Kevin shared about what happened with that family reflect only his beliefs, and we have not been able to verify them.
According to them, after 6 weeks of trying to seduce the husband of the family, they kicked her out.
While there was no way to prove that Jody had been held against her will, the police knew for a fact that Russell and Eve had been. Ruby documented one particularly horrific confrontation between Russell and Jody, whom she refers to frequently as Gijo. Gijo takes Russell on a little walk to the pool, Ruby wrote. She talks on how Russell has love twisted. Gijo then pushed Russell into the pool. Meanwhile, Kevin recounted the events after Jody either escaped or was kicked out of the other family's home.
It was at that point that they said, why don't you take her up to your house? And I was like, oh, hell no. I don't want this in my house. But I was beaten over the head with it. Like, that's really insensitive. You know, she's done so much to help our family, and you're being selfish, and she has needs, and come on, like, it won't be for long. And so I relented, and I was like, okay.
Later in his second interview, Kevin told the police about the drastic changes that took place in the Frankie house after Jody moved in.
The moment she showed up in my house, just the weirdest crap started happening. Lights turning on and off, sounds like people walking and walls, like sounds like footprints going up walls and across the ceiling, stuff floating around, and then it moved every hour at night. And then at some point, Ruby said, you know what, I'm just going to start sleeping in there, and if I need you, I'll come down and get you.
Kevin said that Ruby and Jody began sleeping in the same bed. However, this was only the beginning, and soon Kevin noticed that he was being subjected to unique restrictions.
I could leave when I wanted, but I couldn't come back until Ruby gave me permission. I couldn't come into the kitchen to eat until Ruby gave me permission. And the upstairs where Jody roamed was completely off limits. Ruby would dictate all of the terms of how our interactions would be when we would talk. No matter what I did, no matter how much I tried to track better, be truthful, and not be selfish. Every week it was like, you're being manipulative, you're being selfish, you're lying, you're hiding something, you're still hiding stuff. And I really started to question my sanity, honestly. It became more and more isolated. Jody had an approved list of men that I could make phone calls to.
This appeared to be a method Ruby repeated with Russell at Jody's house. Ruby recounted in the journal to describe the concession of letting Russell sleep.
Do you understand? Because next time you won't be smiling on your face.
Kevin explained that the situation never improved as everyone tried to appease Jody and Ruby.
So I was completely cut off. If I went to my church leaders, I was seeking.
While every women wanted
the... And he uses these kids. And he uses all of us as the adults, the parents that don't hold the kids accountable. So now it's abusive to make a kid sleep on the floor. It's abusive, or it's abusive to, it's ridiculous. You can't even raise your kids anymore.
This was the sort of stance Jody put forth through her program, Connections.
Was
opponent run very next. They were with someone.
She came back from that trip before she even brought the bags into the house. She pulled me in and said, "I want to talk with you," and that's when she asked me to leave.
And so Kevin left and got an apartment in Springsville. At some subsequent point, Ruby also left the family home for the house in Ivans to live with Jody, where the lives of her children would become a living nightmare. Back with Kevin, he said that when Ruby initiated contact again, he had no idea the sinister plan she had in store for their children.
Around that time, things with Ruby started picking up, and I didn't understand why, but Ruby wanted to meet in a parking lot and wanted me to sign over 2 of our cars, wanted me to sign them over to her name. I'm in total compliance mode at this point. Just like, I'm a good husband, you see? You can trust me.
Ruby's comments on the journal somehow managed to become even more disturbing. She wrote, "This girl would choose to be shot and die than to humble." Even that wasn't the most disturbing part though, because after locking Eve in the closet overnight, they decided to treat her injuries from the cactus. Ruby said, "The spirit was very strong as Julie and I witnessed Jody cleaning what did not deserve to be clean." Kevin continued his story, discussing the moment he found that his family had disappeared to live in Ivans, leaving their own house empty.
But when I returned to the house, everything was packed up, and a neighbor came over and said she asked for the HOA rules and mentioned to him that
be here to support you.
And Kevin's chances of gaining legal custody of the children. A discovery made the next day, though, blew that out of the water.
The bag's gone.
What?
The bag is gone.
What?
There's no bag.
The only thing more shocking than the bag's disappearance was where Ruby had gotten the funds in the first place. Kevin and his lawyer revealed the source of the missing $85,000 while speaking with police.
That money, she cleaned out their bank accounts.
The kids' savings account.
Yeah, and yours too, your joint account.
Yeah.
That's where that money came from.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you can have, or if I need to have a discussion with the county attorney. Kevin would kind of like his kids' money back.
Unfortunately, tracking down the money and attempting to return it to the children would likely become a separate civil case. While Ruby didn't comment on this directly while in jail, she had more thoughts to share the longer she was behind bars.
The devil is so sly, and I'm embarrassed it took such.
Take a look at these video thumbnails. It wasn't the manager who was the catalyst for the couple's breakup in November 2022, but rumors of infidelity, with Mason at the center of them. But what about Danielle's most recent romance? In July 2023, Danielle started dating Brandon Lowe. Unlike Danielle's previous boyfriends, Brandon wasn't an online fixture prior to meeting Danielle. According to their own accounts, the relationship was a whirlwind romance.
So quick. So
3 days.
So we just really got to know each other in the span of 2 days.
But as happy as the couple seemed on their joint YouTube channel, it still came as a shock to viewers when Brandon proposed to Danielle after just 5 months of dating. Yet, as the relationship vlogs became interspersed with updates on their upcoming nuptials, it seemed that Danielle really was planning on exchanging I-dos this time, for real. However, recently, their uploads became sparse, and by April, the two had stopped posting to their joint account altogether, building up to a devastating update. But of course, with a dating life as tumultuous as this, one has to wonder what was going on at home. Danielle's family has always been a central part of her life and career. In fact, her mother, Jen, gave up her own job to manage Danielle. But Jen's management of her daughter's career has often been criticized, especially in light of allegations that she has exploited her daughter for financial gain. As we revealed earlier, in 2019, Danielle's father, Dustin Cohn, exposed Danielle and her mother for lying about her birth year and age.
Obviously, she is 14, just turned 14 on March 7th. She was born on 2006. Here is the proof.
However, the details of this feud were messy, revealing further horrible information about, you guessed it, Jen, but not before the mother-daughter duo clapped back. In response to Dustin's expose, Jen and Danielle, as well as other relatives, took to social media to dismiss Dustin's or adult-themed outfits, all of which date back to when she was allegedly 13 to 16. A number of bikini thumbnails, some of which show extreme close-ups of her body, or having and hands videos, where the mother specifically chose intimate topics to advertise in the thumbnail, such as, at what age did you have your first intimate experience? What is the best intimacy?
By the summer of 2023, mother of two and positivity coach April Holt had a following of over 200,000. On July 28th, the day that April was found unconscious in her shower, she and Donovan had been having an argument. The details of their disagreement remain unclear. That morning, Denzel heard his parents fighting, but he could not distinguish the words that were being exchanged. He later recounted to his grandmother what he recalled from that horrible day.
On July 28th, she woke up, drank her coffee, journaled as usual, enjoying her peaceful morning, hugged and kissed her 7-year-old son, Denzel, and her husband then went into the bathroom and began to argue and fight. My 7-year-old grandson put his ear to the door and heard his parents fighting, and he looked underneath to see both of their feet. He then listened some more, but he couldn't understand what they were saying. He then ran to his room. His dad shortly after came into his room and he got him dressed and he fed him. And he then had him go check on his mom. He asked him to go check on his mom. 911 was then called. We got to the hospital and she had no brain function and no blood flow to her brain. We did not find out about the bag, which was not disclosed to us, for over 6 hours. In that time, her husband had went back to the apartment 2 times, not knowing what was, I don't know what he was doing there. On July 31st of 2023, my daughter was pronounced dead and I want justice.
What followed was a fight that Jamie would need to wage to apply public pressure to get the attention of the Nashville police, as well as the DA's office. She began with seeking exposure, case file, and began
Of 2023, my
to wage a uphill battle. After the investigation had been officially closed, it became difficult, if not impossible, to gain any traction in the media. Coverage of April's case on the mainstream outlets at that time completely ceased.
So guys, I wanted to let you guys know something, which I don't understand if I'm doing something wrong or how I reach out, but
go and heal and elevate. No hard feelings. This is not a messy divorce or anything like that. We don't do that. This is like I said. Like he said, this is my best friend at the end of the day. He has been before the relationship, before the marriage, before the kid. So nothing to protect us.
Look at her, man. I would never lose this forever. For real.
So we're good, y'all.
For real, like for real.
Promise y'all.
April and Donovan separated, but never formally cut ties. They continued to present a happy front to their followers, and perhaps some of this was genuine, or perhaps they were in a deeply unhealthy cycle, because after an extended separation, the two decided to rekindle their romance and give it another go. In their videos, they prided themselves on their ability to forgive, to embrace open lines of communication, and to grow as individuals while together. darkest moments of their relationship seemed never to reach April's TikTok account, but the arguments must have escalated. Unlike previous occasions when she sought to separate in July 2023, April was not backing down. She told her mother that she was holding firm and leaving Donovan for good. Donovan must have been just as certain. Jamie learned later that he had pawned his wedding ring just a week before April died.
Me? Am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. Maybe I am. Am I the villain?
Details of their disagreement remain unclear. That morning, Denzel heard his parents fighting, but he
then husband had 3 months.
The night that Jamie reached and ceased.
So
This was not true. April had noticeable bruises. The autopsy recorded.
Perpetrators transported the couple to Davidson's rented home on Chipman Street. Along the way, the attackers stripped Chris of his possessions, taking his wallet, phone, and shoes. Shannon's SUV became a mobile prison, carrying the young couple into a nightmare. The drive to the Chipman Street house was fraught with terror. Chris and Shannon, bound and helpless, could do little but hope for mercy from their captors. Upon arrival, the couple was separated, marking the beginning of their harrowing ordeal. The home, already a den of criminal activity, became the stage for unimaginable acts of violence and cruelty. Chris's ordeal began immediately. He was taken to a separate room where he was savagely beaten and restrained. Evidence later revealed that he endured horrific sexual assault before being bound, gagged, and blindfolded. His captors showed no mercy, dragging him to nearby railroad tracks in the dead of night. There, Chris was stripped of his clothing except for a shirt, shot multiple times, and ultimately unalived with a gunshot to the head. His captors set his lifeless body ablaze, attempting to destroy evidence of their heinous crime. While Chris's life was extinguished that night, Shannon's nightmare continued. Left in the Chipman Street house, she was subjected to hours of sexual assault and physical abuse. The medical examiner's testimony would later reveal the extreme nature of the violence she endured, including severe injuries caused by repeated assaults. The perpetrators attempted to erase evidence of their actions by pouring bleach on her body and into her mouth, further adding to her suffering. Shannon was eventually hogtied with strips of bedding, her face covered with a plastic bag. She was placed alive into 5 large trash bags and stuffed into a residential trash bin located in the kitchen. Asphyxiation slowly claimed her life over agonizing hours, a fact that would haunt all who learned of her fate. As the hours stretched into days, the absence of Shannon and Chris became increasingly alarming to their friends and family. Text messages and calls went unanswered, and their failure to show up at the party where they were expected only deepened the concern. On the morning of January 7, Chris's parents began reaching out to his close friends, desperately seeking answers to their son's whereabouts. Similarly, Shannon's parents, Dina and Gary Christian, grew more worried as hours passed without contact from their daughter. It was a railroad worker performing his routine duties who stumbled upon Chris's burned and lifeless body near the tracks. The scene was horrifying. Chris was bound and partially undressed, his body showing clear signs of execution-style violence. He had been shot multiple times, including a fatal shot to the head, and his body had been set on fire in an attempt to destroy evidence. The discovery sent immediate shockwaves through law enforcement and the Knoxville Man Street residents. What they found would haunt even the most seasoned officers. In the kitchen, inside a trash can, they discovered Shannon's body wrapped in multiple trash bags. She was hogtied and had clearly suffered immense violence before succumbing to asphyxiation. The brutality of her death was evident, leaving investigators and her family reeling from the incomprehensible cruelty she endured. The deaths of Shannon and Chris left an indelible mark on Knoxville. Vigils were held in their honor, with thousands of residents coming together to support the grieving families and demand justice. The senselessness of the crimes coupled
homicide investigation underway in Birmingham.
Police say she and another person were shot last night after a big fight broke out between multiple people, including the victim.
21-year-old Asia Poole was a focused, determined, and hardworking young woman who always had her mindset on accomplishing a new goal. Most importantly, she was a devoted mother to her 4-year-old baby girl and was even enrolled in nursing school to ensure a stable future for both her and her daughter. Although her life was filled with joy and the occasional struggle when it came to raising her daughter, Asia recently considered moving out of state for a fresh start. Sadly, the father of Asia's daughter would be killed roughly 1 month ago, on July 26, something she was still struggling to overcome. She wanted to start a new chapter in her life, leave Alabama for good. Sadly, a sinister chain of events would soon occur that would change Asia and her daughter's lives forever. Just before 10 p.m. on August 20th, Birmingham police responded to the Monarch Bridge Apartments, formerly known as Valley Brooks Apartments, for reports of a shooting. Upon arrival, they would find a chaotic scene, an unresponsive young woman lying in the breezeway of an apartment building.
A deadly shooting at a Birmingham apartment complex.
A 21-year-old woman.
Week, her daughter starts her first day of school.
Fine. The girl took my best friend's car. Best friend, shots went off.
According to Rankins, at the root, a fight on social media over a shared love interest. Police continue to investigate. So far, there have been no arrests. But while Rankins will miss his
vehicle and drives away with 2 others, said the following. They came prepared for this. They were so organized. They had everything blocked off, and everyone rallied up. In fact, there were at least 3 people initially shooting toward the breezeway, where Asia was ultimately killed. After the initial shots, another person emerged from a different breezeway and opened fire. Shots then rang out from every direction. Police believe that once the shooting began, multiple individuals not of court enforcing the settlement for 1 year. Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin and City Attorney Nicole King said they are investigating the next steps to take against the owners of the complex. The shooters have two options. They can immediately turn themselves into Birmingham police or be hunted down by BPD and U.S. Marshals. In the meantime, the residents are pleading for help. In their words, the firepower is out of control, and officers' weapons are no match for those used by criminals. Once again, another innocent child left without a mother and a father, or even her maternal grandmother, who sadly passed away in 2017. The cycle continues.
Hundreds of shots were fired here last night, and what we're seeing out here in the daylight certainly corroborates that. Take a look at just this one car, a bullet hole here in the trunk, another at the top of the trunk, one through the window, and then one on this other side next to the gas tank. The shooting happened after two women, one reportedly the victim, Asia Poole, got into a fistfight, and then right after that fistfight was broken up, that's when we heard the shots fired. Witnesses described what happened here last night as something like World War III.
This Monarch Ridge apartment building bears the scars of what
is charged with theft. She is the person Asia Poole was fighting the night that Poole was killed. Authorities allege that she stole Asia's car. 20-year-old Justin Hendricks, Jania's brother, is charged with murder and attempted murder. 22-year-old Taylor McLeod is also charged with murder and attempted murder. These are the first arrests again in this case, coming just days after the shootout at the Monarch Ridge Apartments Tuesday night. Police say Asia Poole died and another man was injured. The entire shooting stemming from a fight. They say those accused went back to that complex and really fired all those rounds, 168 rounds, police said today. Even so, that many of the apartments in that complex were shot into.
This heartbreaking loss serves as a powerful reminder of the devastating toll gun violence takes on families and communities. Asia's story is more than just a headline. It's a story of a sister, daughter, a mother whose life was tragically cut short. The case remains ongoing.
I'm going to share my secret for maintaining a healthy relationship. So I know that it's easy to say.
Nature is taking back all that was once hers. We were the virus. Permanent payback. But maybe the only way to survive the end is to remember the beginning.
Hey, want to know how I got this $50,000 check for an accident I was involved in over 5 months ago? Look, if you've been injured in a car accident that wasn't your fault, you have to watch this video. There's a little known loophole that attorneys and insurance companies don't want you to know about. A loophole that allows you to get the maximum compensation that your accident actually deserves, without settling for less, jumping through hoops, or contacting firm after firm that really don't care pleading your case. It only...
She said, "Mama, Gabby is sleeping in blood."
Stunned, she looked at her 2-year-old and asked once more.
She said, "Gabby is sleeping in blood."
There are few people more cowardly than men who abuse women and children who are not as strong as them. While a lot of progress has been made in the fight against domestic violence, there are still far too many women stuck in horrific situations they don't know how to get out of. The brave young women in these stories decided to stand up to their abusers by exposing them on social media as the monsters they really are. Because of their bravery, these women ended up paying the ultimate price with their lives.
Family and friends of a teenager killed in West Palm Beach honoring her life tonight after police say Kelly McRae was shot and killed by her ex-boyfriend.
Gabriella Dixon.
It's been 1 month since 18-year-old Gabriella Dixon went missing, and her family's doing everything that they can to find her. From Carolyn Creighton Park to right here at the Okmulgee River Trail, Gabriella's family said she's missed, and they just want her to come home safe and sound.
We're doing what we've been doing for...
Of Gabriella's 2 children, but he was the opposite of the kind of person you would want around your kids. He was physically and emotionally abusive to Gabriella, sometimes even in front of the children, even though she was just 18 years old and did get. As long as Reginald was in the picture, she knew she couldn't ensure their safety. So, after years of abuse at his hands, she decided she wanted to leave him. Gabriella knew that leaving Reginald would be no easy feat. He was always keeping tabs on her and the children. During one particularly shocking incident, he even opened fire on a vehicle that she was in with her children after he saw that it was being driven by another man. In Reginald's mind, the mother of his children spending time with any other male but him, regardless of their relationship, was a sign of huge disrespect. Luckily, nobody was hurt during this violent encounter, but it would only be a matter of time before Reginald struck again. Gabriella decided that the best thing she could do was to go to law enforcement and explain her situation. She told the cops about how Reginald had tried to abuse her. She also told them that Reginald had threatened to kill her if she ever tried to leave him. The cops told Gabriella that for her safety and the safety of her children, she needed to file a restraining order against Reginald and get away from him as soon as possible. Despite their recommendation, there would later be no evidence that a restraining order was followed. It's likely that she never got a chance. On October 30th, 2023, things between Reginald and Gabriella would reach a shocking breaking point. On that day, Reginald dropped off their 2 children with Gabriella's mother, which was a typical thing for him to do. What Gabriella's mother did not realize at the time was that her beloved daughter had been tragically ended earlier that same day. The only people who knew this were Reginald and, at least on some level, their 2 children. How did they know this? Because they had seen it. Even though they weren't old enough to fully understand what was going on, they knew when they left their home that day that something was very wrong with their mother. The first sign that Gabriella's mother got that something terrible had happened was from her young grandchild. The child reportedly said to her that Mama was in blood. The other child, who was slightly older, tried to comfort them by saying Mama was sleeping. Of course, this is not a normal thing for a child to say, so Gabriella's mother tried to call her daughter. When Gabriella
Gabriella didn't pick up. Her mother grew more and more concerned. Last Tuesday, Zusi says she never got a call or text from her daughter to let her know where she was. When Dixon's kids arrived to her home, she said the 2-year-old said something that rattled her.
She touched my knees and she said, Mama, Gabby is sleeping in blood.
Stunned, she looked at her 2-year-old and asked once more.
She said, Gabby is sleeping in blood.
She didn't want to think the worst, but others started asking. Eventually, she contacted Reginald herself and asked him if he knew where she was. Immediately, he started acting super suspicious and refused to give her a straight, able to share. They had her own
one is
this thing we can later Red Night Track who you feel because in this case an outman shot as for the attack. Despite being sentenced to 180 days, upon Tendrell's release from prison, he was placed on house arrest and he was ordered by the court to leave LaShonda and her family alone. This was an order that he would ignore time and time again. In fact, according to LaShonda's mother, Tendrell would harass LaShonda all day, every day, sometimes calling her more than 70 times per day.
I just got woke up. I'm talking about 20 messages back to back, screenshots. This talk about you, this and that, this and that. Like, man, this a whole 11 years older than me. I'm 17, he 28. What the f is you doing on Facebook? Over here trying to, you feel me? Like, you make yourself look stupid. This mad because I don't want to come over his house because he got fleas. Like, I really need a brother so he can go over there and be his. That's like, this nigga don't got no car. He don't got no house. He live with his sister and his mama. I'm not about to keep doing this with the same. Like, where my restraining order at? He already violating his mother restraining order. Like, baby, I do not do this. Like, do not go on Facebook popping it about. But at the end of the day, I'm 17. I own a business. I work and I go to St. Clair. So what the can you say about me?
Even though LaShonda made it clear to Tendrell that she no longer had any interest in being involved with him whatsoever, he continued on with the harassment. LaShonda knew that what she had experienced at the hands of Tendrell Goodwin was horrific domestic violence, and she wanted the world to know the truth too. So, on Facebook, LaShonda exposed Tendrell's abuse, writing, "Domestic violence is real," and detailing some of the ways that Tendrell had abused her while they were together.
Before she was shot, the 17-year-old had obtained a restraining order and referenced a series of abusive encounters involving Trendell Goodwin on her Facebook page.
LaShonda ended up confiding to her family and later posted on social media about some of the horrifically abusive things that Tendrell had done to her while they were still together. One of these things included making her walk from her house to his house while a firearm was pointed at her.
Touchdown! Pass.
Were still together. One of these things included making her walk from her house to his house while a firearm was pointed at her head. Now, realizing that this man was an even bigger monster than they had thought before, LaShonda's family continuously begged the cops for help and protection. They knew it was probably only a matter of time until he would try to hurt this young girl again, and they were right. On September 13, 2018, Tendrell attacked LaShonda and set her wig on fire, causing her to experience serious burns. Even after that, law enforcement didn't intervene in the way that LaShonda needed to save her life. Tendrell's harassment and abuse towards her continued no matter how many restraining orders she asked for. It was clear that the only way that this man was ever going to stay away from her was if he was put behind bars. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. On October 2nd, 2023, the deepest fear that LaShonda's loved ones had for months finally came true when Tendrell made the decision to take this teen's life into his own hands. As she and a new man she had recently been dating left a parked car, Tendrell was crouched down waiting for them. He opened fire upon them, striking LaShonda fatally in the head. Tendrell would later be arrested and charged with her murder.
LaShonda Childs was gunned down in October, just days before her 18th birthday. Before she was shot, the 17-year-old had obtained a restraining order and referenced a series of abusive encounters involving Trendell Goodwin on her Facebook page.
There was no doubt in anyone's mind that Tendrell was the man who was responsible for LaShonda's murder. He initially pleaded guilty to the charges against him, and it seemed that he would be convicted and sentenced for the charge without her family having to go through any extra pain and suffering. But then, in a shocking twist, Tendril ended up changing his plea just hours before he was sent to be sentenced. This is what he had to say to the judge. While Tendril's decision to withdraw his guilty plea complicated things at first, it didn't keep him from facing justice in the long run, as he was sentenced to 18 years to life for LaShonda's murder.
Trendell Goodwin will spend at least 18 years behind bars for the fatal shooting of LaShonda Childs. Goodwin had previously pleaded guilty to murder, felonious assault, and firing gunshots over a roadway. Prosecutors say Goodwin fatally shot Childs on Shoup Avenue in October of 2018.
Following the
Cheyenne had previously suggested to a few people that she'd been abused by her stepfather, Terry Abbas. In July 2011, Cheyenne confided in a friend that Terry Abbas might have been molesting her, alleging SA.
When Cheyenne came to school, she would tell me a lot about her home life. One time her stepdad, she called him Terry, and she was very upset because she got home from school, and her mom was at work, and he was on the computer. He was looking up and other girls, and she threatened to tell her mom on him. He definitely gave me the creeps, and probably every staff member here the creeps. I mean, you could just tell there was something not right about him.
She'd even suggested that he was watching her inappropriately, including spying on her while she was in the bathroom. Another confirmation of abuse came from someone so unexpected that detectives could never have predicted. Terry Abbas's own biological daughter, Sharia Chambers.
It started off, like visitation, supervised. It started off with my grandma, and then after a while, I guess they approved to have visits with us alone, and they turned to overnights.
During those overnight visits in East Dubuque, Sheree says she met Cheyenne Kircher. She says Kircher confided in her that Abbas was abusing her.
I told her that she needed to go to teachers, she needed to go to somebody she trusted, she needed to go and tell somebody, because I couldn't help her. She's seen the consequences of telling them no, so part of me wants to think that she's too scared to go and ask for help.
Detectives later learned that Cheyenne had been interviewed by law enforcement at the time regarding these claims, but she'd not disclosed any further details or confirmed abuse during those interviews. But the real clue was about to come from Cheyenne's YouTube channel. An old video that Cheyenne had streamed live would turn out to be a key element in solving her mysterious disappearance. On February 19th, 2011, things took an interesting turn when Cheyenne launched a new YouTube channel, Shy Shy Love 2011. This channel essentially served as a continuation of her previous one, though with time, she began introducing new content that showcased her family members as featured stars.
Look at Cheyenne in her floor Now, if he jacks you in the face, I'm gonna laugh my ass off.
Without a dedicated filming space, Cheyenne made videos by recording in the family shared spaces, where stepfather, Terry Abbas, would often be visible in the background. Occasionally, Cheyenne would jokingly throw comments his way, sparking playful bickering that seemed to reflect the typical hostilities between family members rather than any serious conflict. In fact, she seemed to care for the man she called Dad, often posting about him affectionately on her Facebook page. That raised eyebrows right away. Could that man have been involved in all of this? Investigators, while carefully reviewing her channel for any leads, saw little in the content that pointed to anything other than typical family dynamics. Her videos appeared lighthearted, and for a while, her YouTube account seemed like a dead end in the investigation. But little did they know, at this moment, they discovered something very shocking, which would turn the case in a completely different direction. One video had caught their attention. It was posted to her channel on March 7th, 2011, just months before her disappearance. It began like any other video of Cheyenne's, lighthearted and humorous. But then, things took an unexpected turn. When Cheyenne was streaming this video live, she unintentionally captured a glimpse of the man who had been preying on her. In the middle of filming, a man suddenly entered the room, though only his lower half appeared on camera. Cheyenne, who was normally energetic and lively, immediately changed. She quieted down, grabbed the man's arm, and whispered, "I'm on a live stream, be careful." The man responded with a casual, "Okay," but then proceeded to grab her. Cheyenne reacted with a loud stop, falling back onto her bed before snapping back into her comedic persona.
I know what I can do.
What?
I'm on a live stream, be careful. See? Stop! Did I say you were in this? No, you weren't. Get away! Help! See how abusive? No, he's not abusive. No! Stop!
Yes, I am. I'll pull her out.
No!
Alright.
See what I have to go through every day? Mister, I don't need... Stop! See? See?
The man then re-entered the frame, this time playfully engaging her in what looked like a slap fight, switching to a humorous tone and clearly performing for the camera. He left shortly afterwards, and Cheyenne resumed the video as if nothing unusual had happened. The man's close physical presence, the secrecy of his approach, the shift in Cheyenne's demeanor, all of these elements spoke volumes, suggesting something deeply troubling. As detectives continued to comb through Cheyenne's other videos, they began piecing together clues about the identity of the mystery man. Once they identified him, their reaction was one of shock. It's here that the disturbing story will start to unfold. The investigation was redirected to her stepfather, Terry Abbas, once again. Since there was no direct evidence to confirm Terry's evil intentions towards Cheyenne, police were convinced that Abbas had posed a threat to Cheyenne and likely played a role in her disappearance. With this, Terry Abbas became the primary suspect in the case.
We're a little bit concerned of a couple of things. Number one, that he might flee. Number two, we're hopeful that he might trip himself up if he's really nervous about our investigation, and he might go back to the scene of the crime. If he did in fact murder Cheyenne, he might try to move the body or conceal it more than it is.
Detectives grew increasingly certain that Terry knew more about Cheyenne's fate than he was letting on. Hoping he might lead them to a clue, the task force decided to monitor his movements by placing a tracker on his car. Given that the family had frequently gone on camping trips to various remote locations, investigators theorized that if Abbas had harmed Cheyenne, he might revisit a secluded site to cover his tracks. If he did kill Cheyenne, he might return to one of those familiar camping spots. So they placed a tracking device. Abbas, however, initially resisted, though he ultimately had no choice but to comply. When Abbas arrived, he was interviewed by a seasoned FBI agent who was part of the investigation team.
So on the 18th of September, when we had scheduled the interviews, they all in fact arrived. We spoke to them briefly as a group, and then we told them exactly what was coming up. You know, we're going to separate you, we're going to interview you, we're going to find out every single detail as to what led up to her missing, and we're going to figure out why she left. And then, from that point,
we're only provide some answers. However, the deranged motive behind the unthinkable crime that they would soon uncover would leave the police in shock. There was yet another twist in the story. When the scheduled interview time arrived, Terry Abbas was nowhere to be found. Concerned about his absence, FBI Special Agent Wayne Jakowski, who had been coordinating with Cheyenne's family, decided to track him down. Jakowski located Abbas in East Dubuque and escorted him to the police station to ensure his participation in the investigation.
it was definitely intentional to let him know that we were going to have a polygrapher waiting after the interview. We want to put as much mental pressure and police presence in their mind as possible.
Yeah, cool.
Because he's most likely the one that would be our offender. And if he confesses, we want to have it on video.
Under increased scrutiny, Abbas began to unravel. And what Abbas revealed next would solve the mystery of Cheyenne's heart-wrenching story.
Oh, you got your man.
See what they have. Waiting for tactics.
Hey, you got your amps. Cheyenne is not with us. She's gone.
During his initial confession, he recounted a troubling story. He claimed to have taken Cheyenne up into the woods behind their home, where they spent time running around and playing. Cheyenne had wanted him to chase her through the forest, so he did, though he was clumsy, slipping and sliding as he tried to keep up. According to Abbas, he eventually slipped and at some point blacked out. When he regained consciousness, he discovered Cheyenne lying lifeless before him, with his hand wrapped around her neck.
We go back to that day when she came home from school and just kind of start from there, from the best of your memory.
We were joking around. We were outside. And she wanted me to chase her. I chased her. She might have been forced. I chased her after a few minutes. And fell.
Did you fall?
Yeah, slip and slide. She thought it was funny. We're just learning how to tell what happened. I guess what you say, like I just snapped. Before I knew it, I was standing over her butt. I never heard my hand was over her neck for some reason.
I just overheard it happen to what?
I was squeezing, I guess. And I panicked.
What happened to cause that?
I had no clue. No honestly clue.
FBI agent Jakowski knew that Terry wasn't telling the whole truth. He knew there was more to the story. And so he continued to build a rapport with Terry, creating an environment of trust and safety.
What other things are going on between you and Cheyenne? I need to understand that a little bit. Can you help me understand the reason why I can't figure out why it doesn't have?
It's been all perfect.
Have there been any other injuries on her from at any point that you might have hit her or struck her for any reason?
No.
Y'all gon' make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gon' make me.
Hey guys, did you know some drivers are ditching their car insurance and they're doing this instead?
I've done a lot of drugs in my life and I've never felt anything like I did last night.
The little girl's gone. Any questions for me?
My kids okay?
This is 34-year-old Music Adami. Just hours prior to this footage, Music and her boyfriend, Matthew Bynum, woke up to police inside their trash-filled trailer home. They were unable to move and could barely speak.
What's going on?
I can't sit upright. I'm just really stiff.
Well, make...
I don't care. I didn't know she was... I really didn't. That's why I called. I didn't know what... Look, wait until they read your rights, then you can start talking. Thank you.
Thaddeus would be taken to the Grant County Sheriff's Office, where a few hours from now he would undergo an intense interview with detectives. But officers back at the scene still needed to figure out what was going on, so they would engage Music to get her side of the story and determine what could have caused this tragedy to happen in the first place. And Music would reveal far more than they could have asked for. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about the best earbuds I've ever used. If you're like me, then you love listening to true crime podcasts. Maybe at work, at a cafe, or on the train. I do it while I'm on the bus to work, but there's one problem with that: the noise. There's babies crying, people shouting, and normal earbuds just don't work no matter how much I turn them up. That's when I did some research and discovered the Raycon Everyday Earbuds. Their noise cancellation is better than any earbuds I've ever tried.
Because my parents are long-haired freaky people. They really named me Music. I have an ID. But all we're all fluffy. I can't explain it. I don't have any. I don't know how my kids would have gotten it. We were at their birthday party all day. Like, we did not have on us at the birthday party.
This is a lie. Notice how Music stumbles on her sentence after she realizes she shouldn't admit to taking any drugs at the birthday party. It's unclear why she felt the need to lie here, considering just minutes ago she admitted to taking amphetamine at the party. Regardless, she would be transported to the hospital where her... Do not type much.
Okay.
The thing...
Okay. So we're gonna have you stand up. Officer Godowski's gonna remove your handcuffs when I take some pictures, okay? Stand up,
You and me.
Well, you guys were waking me up. She was talking.
So, Mr. Bynum, here in a while, we're going to have a conversation about that, okay? But I know you're going to need a little time.
For representation.
Okay, you're going to want a lawyer?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, then let's take some pictures and then we can get you back to the stuff for now, okay?
They would allow Matthew to break the news to Music in a private area without cameras. However, as it would turn out, Matthew was too afraid to break the news and saved it for a detective later on.
You guys are free to go. You guys are free to go. You just can't go back to the house. Yeah, so, you know. Well, he doesn't know. That's what I'm telling you. Okay, yeah, so you can't go back to the house. You guys are free to go. You guys' phones, she understands the phone. You guys come back tomorrow and get with the detectives in the morning.
The couple would roam free following this news, but without a home, they would live out on the streets for the night. Detectives, on the other hand, had a crucial question to answer. What could have possibly caused all of this to happen? As of now, nothing makes sense. A child was dead, and an answer had to be found. Fortunately, detectives had a plan to find the answers they were looking for. Remember Thaddeus, the guy on the scene who called 911? Thaddeus was the only person with the family the night prior, and seemingly the only coherent one out of the group. If anyone could explain what had happened, it would be him. With this, he would be brought to the station directly after Music and Matthew left, where officers would conduct their first formal interview of the case.
Sorry about that. Alright, so I'm going to read this to you. This is an advice of your rights. You're going to take detention, okay? Yeah, considering the matter at hand. Yeah.
The detective would go on to read Thaddeus' rights. It's important to know that detectives do consider Thaddeus a potential suspect. The goal of this interview is not only to determine whether or not Music and Matthew are guilty, but if Thaddeus could have played a role in Zachy Line's death.
I saw that you were the 911 caller. Yes, but before we get into that, let's start in the morning. They'll have it in the morning. Well, I don't know if you saw the red van there or not with the dogs that I'm barking. That's where I'm trying to convert that inside the trailer. That's where I was sleeping. And I woke up and I thought I heard the kids playing around outside, and then I realized that was the other house inside the fighting. I didn't know why. So I got out of the van and I went to my chat. There was music. Matt was kind of laying near Music, like almost on top of Zachy, little girl. So that's what I decided to call 911. So let's just kind of backtrack a little bit. So you heard Music yelling. So you hear that. You walk to the door. You go to the door. You open the door, and you see Matt, Zachy, and Music leaning on. Well, Matt was on the bed. Zachy was kind of half on, half off, and Music was not on the bed at all.
So far, Thaddeus' recollection of events is accurate to what officers observed when they got onto the scene. He would go on to say that Music and Matthew don't consume or smoke any kind of drug other than marijuana. We know this is a lie, as Music herself admitted to taking amphetamine the day prior, meaning Thaddeus' statements need to be taken with a grain of salt. However, none of this would matter, as the detective would ask a single question that, quite literally, would change the trajectory of the entire case.
How did they get the house? It was a propane, yeah. But last night, the propane ran out, and they taken it off to go get propane, but never got it to the propane bill. Did you never start fires in the house? No, they don't start fires in the house. They go, and I thought you saw the coals in the bath.
Yeah. So that was where they went. They burned wood and brought it in once it was cold and no smoke left.
Yeah, because that's what I saw. I saw that and I was like, well, maybe we could be looking at carbon monoxide here too. I don't think it would have been because last night they might have used wood to the coals to heat it, but it's probably not likely.
Despite what Thaddeus claims, this theory makes a lot of sense. If the family used coal to keep the house warm, the fumes could be potentially deadly. Burning coal releases carbon monoxide, a colorless, odorless gas that can cause poisoning. Inhalation of carbon monoxide prevents oxygen from binding to hemoglobin in the blood, leading to oxygen deprivation in tissues and organs. This can cause headache, dizziness, nausea, confusion, and in severe cases, loss of consciousness and death. The exact symptoms of everyone inside the home. If the trailer was fully sealed, meaning no windows or doors were open, then this could certainly have been what killed Zachy Line. This is something officers would investigate later on in the night, but for now, this is just a theory, and the detective still needs to try and determine whether or not Thaddeus is lying about Matthew and Music's drug use, or if something even more sinister had taken place. To do this, he decides to relay the significance of this case to Thaddeus by letting him know that Zachy Line had passed away.
Zachy. Oh. Not know that. Zachy's gone. That's why all of this is happening. Yeah. Okay, because we need to figure out how in the heck this even came to be. Yeah. Okay. So, I know last time we talked a lot about doing the right thing and this and that. Yeah. I mean, that situation that you're in, definitely a good time to do that, right? Right. I can't even think of a situation where it would be more important to know what's going on than right now. I'm not the kind of cop that likes to get people caught up. That's not why I do that. That's not why I'm here. Right now, seeing her covered up, seeing her afterwards. Like, I'm not lying. Like it knocked me down. I cried for a good long while.
I saw you walking away from the ambulance crying.
Yeah,
I didn't know why.
Yeah, it got a lot worse after that. Right now, my job is to do right by Zachy and lie the best I can by understanding what's going on. I mean, and like I said, sometimes things happen. Sometimes other people.
Wow, loud. It's very, very loud. And I don't know how to play the piano.
purpose.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's accidental or things go too far. There's a million reasons why something could happen, why something could come to be, right? And sometimes there's little details of things that happen that end up meaning a lot.
Right.
Down the road. Like, you could be like, well, I noticed this, or I did see that, or I overheard whatever, or I had this feeling, or something that smelled right and how something, right? So sometimes those things can lead to having a greater understanding. So is there anything of that nature regarding anyone that was there at any time that could have led potentially to that?
I only ever heard Music and Matt argue.
On the wedding night, this woman deliberately causes trouble for her husband, saying that he can only sleep with her if he can spread her legs.
I only ever heard Music and Matt argue, but it was usually when Matt was super tired and stayed up all night gathering wood and stuff. And then the truck would break down or something would go wrong and it's common for that to happen, but it was never around the kids. I never did anything around the kids and they loved them.
Is there anything that stands out to you about what happened that could explain what's going on here?
Oh, I mean, what stood out was I could say how pale it was, or that's what I called it.
It seems clear that Thaddeus genuinely doesn't think Music and Matthew had any intentions to hurt their daughter, and if they had taken drugs that night, he wasn't aware of it. The mystery of what happened is still as confusing as ever, and the only possible cause officers could think of was the burning coal. So with this in mind, they would report back to the trailer later that night to investigate this possibility.
Reporting for us?
Yep.
So I'm sure they went over this several times with you, but boy was somewhere in this region. Dad was laying here, decedent here, and then mom off to the side. And then when Thaddeus came in, he saw them here. She was super pale. For some reason, moved him to this chair, and then came back, and then that's when he started calling 911. Girl could have gone sick. I mean, living like this, you know, gets a little bit of a cold or something, and there you go. She had any kind of immunocompromise, so you can live here.
So they said that she got sick and threw up?
The mom was like, I've done a lot of drugs in my life. She goes, I occasionally do meth and but I don't do heroin, nothing like that, and I've never felt like I did last night ever in my life.
It seemed like the case was quite clear at this point. The carbon monoxide poisoning was too much for Zachy Line's body to handle, and she passed. All they had to do was find a way to factually prove that there were high levels of carbon monoxide in the trailer, and their case would be closed. A post-mortem toxicology analysis would be conducted on Zachy Lines specifically designed to identify carboxyhemoglobin saturation. Normal carboxyhemoglobin levels are generally up to 3.5% in non-smokers and up to 8% in smokers. When Zachy Lines' result came back, it showed a 70% saturation. It was far too much to survive. The coal fumes had killed her. The next day, detectives would bring back both Music and Matthew to the station. Matthew insisted on only speaking if he had an attorney present, but Music agreed to sit down for a conversation. The detective wants to determine a few specific things during this interrogation. Did Music or Matthew know that heating their home with the hot coal ash was extremely dangerous, yet continued to do it? And ultimately, were they aware that their daughter had passed and tried to go without calling 911?
Like the deputies told you, I'm Detective Orozco, you could just call me Randy, that's fine. So my job is to figure out.
The screams are heartbreaking. Monisha's family crying, praying for justice, praying domestic violence victims speak out and seek help. Monisha's family, grieving today, didn't hold back.
They should not feed him. They should let him suffer because the 10-year-old great-grandchild of mine has gone without her mother. How do we correct this? Enough of this. How do we correct this? His mother should be arrested for giving birth to him.
That was the heartbroken mother of Monisha Collins, who was brutally murdered by the convicted criminal she married. Sadly, Monisha is not the only woman to have made the deadly mistake of marrying an ex-convict and paying with their lives. Starting off is the case of Tanisha Neely, the woman who married a convicted criminal inside the prison, and he killed her once he got out.
Anyone that's ever taken a shot for birth control needs to hear this. The manufacturers that make birth control shots just got caught. They've known for years that there are high dangers of using the product, which has put many women at serious risk. This is a really big deal. Birth control injections are linked to brain tumors and other serious injuries. So if you ever took shots for birth control and you were ever diagnosed with a brain tumor or meningioma,
Neely, the woman who married a convicted criminal inside the prison, and he killed her once he got out. Despite his lengthy criminal record filled with violent offenses, Kenesha Neely saw a man worthy of love and a second chance in 46-year-old Moses Neely, an inmate she connected with through Facebook in 2019. Charmed by his promises of being a reformed man worthy of her love, Kenesha made the fateful decision to marry Sheldon while he was still behind bars. What followed was a whirlwind romance filled with prison visitations, social media posts portraying marital bliss, and Kenesha's unwavering belief that her husband-to-be could truly change once released. She wanted to show that even if someone had a bad past, they could still be good. Tragically, Kenesha's faith in second chances and fresh starts would lead to the worst tragedy imaginable. Kenesha Neely, mother to 2 daughters at the time of her death, was born on March 25, 1986, and lived at a home in McCoy Drive, Hoffman, Illinois, with her children. Kenesha was educated. She studied business administration/management and was financially capable. At the age of 38, she had a car, a house, and a well-paying job. She had everything except a man to love her and one she could love in return. The father of her 2 girls had left her, and she was a single parent who desired affection. This was what led her to Facebook, where she met 46-year-old convict Moses Neely, who had an extensive criminal record and was serving a 12-year sentence for physical assault and robbery at the time. Kenesha was excited when she received a message from Moses. So, they began to exchange texts regularly, and Kenesha began to develop affection for Moses. She shared this good news with her friends and followers. Much me, Howard, and Chloe and hit her and Moses and each other. However, still age, Danny was determined to make Edwina and her new boyfriend Daniel pay. You see, Danny was not a stranger to violence and had connections to the street crimes in Little Rock, so he reached out to his street contacts and hired 2 gunmen with the instructions to kill both Edwina and her new boyfriend Daniel. He gave the gunmen details of Edwina's daily life, her residence, and daily activities, particularly with Daniel. Danny was said to have given the gunmen the command to kill Edwina and Daniel however they saw fit.
5 YouTubers, 5 untimely tragedies that shocked millions of fans across the globe. Passion and adventure can turn deadly in an instant. Join us as we explore these stories and try to find the answer to a question as old as time. What price do we pay for chasing our dreams? Tragedy. As responsible as he was, Timothy had another passion, YouTube. On the fateful February night, Timothy set out with a friend to film a video, part of an increasingly popular genre of prank videos, many of which blur the line between humor and threat. Their plan was to stage a robbery for the camera, aiming to capture the shocked reactions of unsuspecting bystanders, a concept that has garnered millions of views on the platform. The location they chose for their video was the parking lot of Urban Air. Families were inside enjoying the attractions, unaware of the tragic event unfolding just outside. It was then that Timothy and his friend approached a group of people. Perhaps the 2 of them had failed to think their plan through. Perhaps they had failed to realize just how dangerous their idea was, not only for those who would have fallen for their prank, but also for themselves. As they approached the group of people, Timothy and his friend carried butcher knives. To make matters worse, the knives were not props, they were...
After I got my first plant, I was hooked. There was just something so peaceful.
Props. They were real, sharp, and dangerous. To onlookers, this was no joke. It looked and felt like an armed robbery in progress. Among the group they approached was 23-year-old David Starnes, Jr. Unaware that he was part of a staged video, Starnes saw the knives and reacted in fear for his life and the lives of those around him. In an instant, the situation escalated from a misguided prank to a deadly confrontation. Starnes, acting in self-defense, pulled out a gun and shot Timothy Wilkes, killing him on the spot. And just like that, a 20-year-old was dead. When police arrived at the scene, Starnes admitted to the shooting. He told investigators he had no idea it was a prank and believed he was in real danger. Witnesses confirmed that Wilkes and his friend had been filming a robbery prank for a YouTube video. Despite the tragic outcome, no charges have been filed against Starnes. The police deemed his actions to be in self-defense. Timothy Wilkes' death deeply affected his grandmother, Shirley Berry, who later expressed her devastation and confusion. She revealed that she had been unaware of Timothy's involvement in YouTube videos, calling it a mystery to her. As she grieved the loss of her grandson, she hoped others might learn from this tragedy. She called on parents and guardians. Terribly. Nishu Deshwal was not just another social media influencer. With over 1.5 million YouTube subscribers and 1.3 million Instagram followers, he had built a massive online empire. His wasn't the usual form of content. Nishu's specialized in stunts involving large, heavy vehicles in challenging terrains. His stunts had captivated audiences, racking up over 300 million views across his videos. One of his most watched videos alone had garnered an impressive 25 million views. But this fame was built on a foundation of increasingly dangerous stunts, a gamble with risk that would eventually catch up with him. Nishu's stunts often involved testing the limits of massive machines, particularly tractors, which he drove over unstable ground to the delight of his viewers. For 3 years, his followers watched in awe as he maneuvered these heavy vehicles, balancing them on 2 wheels, pulling off near impossible tricks on soft terrain, and constantly pushing the limits of what the machines, and he, could handle. But on this fateful Wednesday, the danger became all too real. That day, Nishu attempted one of his and to tip backward as the rear wheels lost traction on the loose soil. The tractor teetered at a dangerous angle, and, before anyone could react, it flipped completely with the entire weight of the vehicle crashing down on Nishu. Nishu was crushed between the metal chassis of the month-old son. Even though the man had been on a dangerous path, and though his followers were accustomed to watching him cheat death in each video, no one had expected the risk to become a reality. As fans mourned Nishu Deshwal's death, questions arose about the factors that led to the fatal accident. Speculation swirled online, with some pointing to possible faults in the tractor's design. Fans noted that the rollover protection system, which should have shielded Nishu, had failed catastrophically. Some suggested that aftermarket parts may have been improperly sized, while others argued that tractors were simply not designed to perform the kind of stunts Nishu regularly attempted. The weight distribution of the engine, the softness of the terrain, and the immense pressure on the vehicle's structural integrity all combined to turn the stunt into a deadly accident. What happened on that riverbank in Panipat was a tragic culmination of years spent chasing online fame through ever riskier content. Nishu Deshwal's death serves as a sobering reminder of the dangers influencers face when attempting to... The 37-year-old had a fearless approach to life, one that he incorporated in his videos. It wasn't just our lives. Flocked to his social media channels for inspiration, and Plitt was always eager to deliver. However, his thirst for excitement and desire to push the limits would ultimately lead him down a fatal path. It was January 17, 2015, when Plitt and two crew members set up along the railroad tracks in Burbank, California, to film a video meant to promote an energy drink. It wasn't the first time Plitt had filmed on those tracks. He had previously filmed videos of himself performing exercises on the rails as trains passed behind him. This time, however, things would go tragically wrong. Plitt began running alongside the track, seemingly unaware of the southbound Metrolink commuter train approaching behind him. A rock climber, skydiver, and all-around adrenaline junkie, Plitt had jumped out of planes more than 1,000 times during his military career. Risk was nothing new to him. But this time, his confidence betrayed him. When the train's horn blared, Plitt and his crew likely believed it was on an adjacent track. He continued running, trying to capture the perfect shot, but in a cruel twist of fate, Plitt was on the same track as the oncoming train. What happened next was irreversible and horrifying. Investigators later determined that Plitt had misjudged in just trying to get the best shot. And why such a dangerous shoot? Plitt, it was July 2021, and Albert Dyrlund was on another one of his adventures. At 22 years old, Albert was a beloved Danish YouTuber, known for his fun personality and creative content. That July, Albert's work had brought him to the Italian Alps. He planned to film a video for his channel on the Seseda mountain, but Albert never got to shoot his video. Instead, a devastating accident claimed his life. Albert Dyrlund's rise to prominence began in 2016 when he joined YouTube and started sharing a range of content, from comedy sketches to music videos. Over the years, he amassed a large following, garnering more than 170,000 subscribers on YouTube and over 230,000 followers on Instagram. His energetic and often unconventional approach to entertainment resonated with viewers who were drawn to his humor, creativity, and adventurous spirit. In 2018, Dyrlund even ventured into acting, starring in the comedy film Team Albert, a story about a high schooler's quest to become a YouTube sensation. The film was well received and won the Blockbuster Audience Award at the Danish Film Awards in 2019, further solidifying Dyrlund's place in the Danish entertainment industry. Despite his lighthearted content, Dyrlund was known to push the boundaries in his videos, often involving stunts and risk-taking. Some of his content stirred controversy for its daring nature, including moments where he shaved his head or licked snails for the camera. But these antics were part of what made him popular among a younger audience seeking bold, unapologetic entertainment. Dyrlund's work reflected his playful yet fearless attitude towards life, a trait that endeared him to many. But a hiking trail that links two mountain peaks. The trail was steep and rocky. The unimaginable happened in an instant. 22-year-old Albert Dyrlund stumbled and fell from a staggering height of 656 feet. His friends immediately alerted the authorities. A rescue helicopter was dispatched instantly. But the rescue operation itself was complicated by difficult conditions, including dense fog. When rescuers finally reached Albert Dyrlund, the YouTuber was pronounced dead at the scene. According to reports, Dyrlund's death occurred in a matter of seconds. Friends, fellow creators, and fans expressed their grief online. Many tributes poured in for the young YouTuber, with Danish social media personalities sharing heartfelt messages in his honor. As those who knew him mourn his passing, they also celebrate the joy he brought into the lives of many. Dyrlund's memory lives on through his videos, a lasting testament to his creativity as well as his humor. The online community was struck by tragedy in July 2019 when Grant Thompson, the star and creator of the popular YouTube channel The King of Random, lost his life in a baffling accident. At 38 years old, Thompson was known for his inventive and often daring content, which blended science experiments with creative hands-on projects. His death shocked millions of fans who had grown to admire his curiosity and enthusiasm. Grant Thompson's journey began far from the world of viral fame. Born in 1980, Thompson was a commercial airline pilot living in Farmington, Utah. Thompson diligently pursued the idea of making videos focused on life hacks, experiments, and DIY projects. A friend had jokingly referred to him as the King of Random, a name that stuck and eventually became the brand for his channel. By 2012, in the months leading up to his death, he began to distance himself from the day-to-day demands of the channel to spend more time with them. Unfortunately, it was during this period that his adventurous spirit would lead to tragedy. On July 29, 2019, Grant Thompson set off for what was meant to be a memorable paragliding trip near Sand Hollow State Park in Hurricane, Utah. The man had taken up paragliding only 5 months prior. It was an activity that fit the risk-taking that had defined his career. But Grant Thompson failed to return home that evening. Naturally, his family grew concerned and contacted local authorities. A search was launched and officers used the GPS locator Thompson had been carrying to track his last known location. Hours later, rescuers made a gruesome discovery. They found Grant Thompson's body and paragliding equipment in a remote and rugged area of the park. A medical helicopter was deployed to retrieve Thompson's remains. Tragically, video footage from his recording device captured the final moments leading up to his death. According to investigators, a sudden change in the wind caused an updraft that collapsed Thompson's parachute. Though he attempted to deploy his reserve chute, he was too close to the ground, about 100 feet, for it to fully open. Thompson died.
It's not your fault. What happened? We were kids.
5 YouTubers out a gun. A story which he filmed in his backyard. However, his passion for discovery remained.
Look at my face. Oh. I don't give a damn.
The victim
was shot at least 7 times by her boyfriend and then run over at least twice.
I hate when I'm dating and talking to somebody and they be like, oh, you're always in the house, you don't ever go nowhere. But they know if I go get a fresh retwist, a fresh fade, and put on some clothes and go outside, I'm gonna be a problem. So you either want me to stay in the house and play this video game or go be a problem. You choose.
This is the story of Star Michael Tucker, aged 30.
Hi, Facebook, and
A beautiful senior airman in the United States Air Force who was shot over from her.
Dowdy was arrested and charged in the crime.
He didn't give off he could do something like this, but you never know until it's too late. I don't understand why he did what he did, because he could have just left. I just want justice as of now, and I won't stop until I get it.
Deputies say Charles Dowdy was arrested and booked into jail in Baldwin County, Alabama. They say he was in Tucker's car and had stopped after getting a flat tire. Tucker's family still in shock.
I don't understand why he did what he did, because he could have just left. I just want justice as of now, and I won't stop until I get it.
Deputies say Charles Dowdy was arrested and booked into jail in Baldwin County, Alabama. They say he was in
But it really just hurt my heart. It did. It hurt my heart that she had to sit there and suffer.
Sarah Evans still feels like she's in a dream after hearing reports of her best friend Deja Hood murdered on Tuesday.
I've been making it. I just been asleep because every time I wake up, I think about it. I think about it every second of the day.
My heart just dropped because it was just so unexpected. And then the way she went was like a cop sword, like she didn't deserve that.
What makes someone snap? How does a playful moment between friends turn into an unspeakable act of violence? And how does a trusted companion become the prime suspect in a murder so horrifying it shakes everyone connected to the victim? On a quiet September evening, a young woman vanished without a trace after spending time with someone she thought she knew. Hours later, her lifeless body was found, discarded in the woods behind an apartment complex. But it wasn't just the discovery of her body that shocked everyone. It was what investigators uncovered next. As the layers of this case began to unravel, what started as a missing persons report turned into a story of betrayal, rage, and a desperate act to cover the truth. In this video, we'll take you through the role of a young mother, balancing her own dreams while taking care of her 1-year-old child. Her family described her as loving, responsible, and fiercely determined to create a better future for herself and her little one. She had such a beautiful soul, one friend wrote on social media. Another shared how Deja was always there to encourage others, lifting them up even when life weighed her down. Her former teacher called her Miss Hood, a student who lit up the classroom and left a lasting impression. Everyone who knew Deja agreed she was destined for great things. But on that September day, all of her dreams and aspirations came to an abrupt and violent end. A bright future stolen in an instant. And the question everyone is left asking, how could this happen to someone so full of life? Deja Hood was more than a victim. She was a beacon of hope to her family and friends. But who could betray someone so loved? And why? Through nature. Why? And it happened here. This wasn't an accident. It was murder. How could a young woman with so much life ahead of her end up in such a horrifying situation? And why did the last person to see her seem to have more questions than answers? The discovery behind the Holly Tree Apartments was only the beginning. The truth behind Deja Hood's death was darker than anyone had imagined. What happened next would leave investigators stunned and a family shattered.
If you're looking for a career where you can really make a difference in the world, to help and connect with others,
We begin this half hour with a developing story we're following. A teenager found dead behind a South Tyler apartment complex. Police have identified the victim, and they're working to piece together what happened to her. Our Dan Malay is on the scene with the latest.
Deja Hood had only been reported missing for a day, but it was in this creek here behind the Holly Tree Apartments that Tyler PD found her body this afternoon.
We're told that Deja's family first reported her missing last night, so this has been a fast-developing case. Investigators are treating this as a homicide. Deja was just 18 years old. Police say she was last seen with a man that lives in the apartment complex. Police would not identify that man. He has been brought in for further questioning.
She was voluntarily down here, to our knowledge. That's what we know, is that she was down here according to the family. She was picked up by this man, brought here, and then he's the last person to see her.
There was at else through and Carp's murder and than they knew him. It was Park's blood here. Deja entered an affidavit. Britton confessed to the murder and gave a chillingly detailed account of the events leading to Hood's death. He explained that he had picked up Hood and a 1-year-old child she was babysitting on Monday night. Hood had agreed to help him pack for a move. While alone in the kitchen, Britton began reflecting on a recent breakup with his ex-girlfriend, and his emotions spiraled out of control. When Hood walked over and playfully tugged on his ear, a gesture that reminded him of his ex, Britton said he snapped. Consumed by what he described as a fit of rage, he grabbed a glass bottle and struck Hood on the back of her head, causing